Welcome to Wednesday Comics.
Brought to you by rootsoftheswampthing.com and Siouxpercon 2018 Return to the Con.
Hey everyone, keep turning those pages.
Welcome to Wednesday Comics. Across me, we have the underdog himself, AP. How you doing?
Hello everyone.
And to my left, we have Garrett Short Sleeves. How you doing?
I'm doing swell.
You go short sleeves in the winter?
Yeah, I gotta show them guns off.
We don't do. Who's wearing short sleeves right now?
We don't do video anymore, so I got to give these some radio waves.
Recently, they announced that you can have a concealed weapon without a permit. Is that what you're doing? That way you don't. Oh, you're not concealing them.
I'm not concealing.
You're free.
He's letting everyone see those bad
open
boys.
carry.
They're ready to aim and fire.
And that gold there came from our guest this week, John Boylan. John, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
That's a good joke. And it didn't get enough from you two because you're too busy talking to each other.
Don't encourage Marvin. He's not funny.
Did you hear what he said? He said the joke. He said
that's why he got the gold
I said,
star.
you covering those guns? And he said, no, it's open carry.
Oh, nice.
See, you didn't hear it. Gold. We're
Skip that conversation.
A lot of Swamp Thing talk today, so it's going to be a Swamp Thing episode. But first, before the show started, we were talking about Tom King, so we thought we'd talk about it up front here. Tom King is a fairly new writer. What, 2-3 years, right? When was Grayson started? I believe that was his first DC work, and that was his first really.
I thought the first one was. Oh, I see. DC wise, I thought that Vertigo Black Book or whatever.
Oh, he did some short stories. He did a story for there was a quarterly series, Cyan, Black, 2 other colors, yellow and something else. He did do one for that. Something. He did one from Time Warp. It was a anthology thing from Vertigo, and that story is great. That story still. I talk about the story all the time. People are like, "What do you like in anthology stories?" I always bring up that story. That story is great. Yeah, so he did do some of those works. Actually, if you hear him ever talk about how he started his career, he did those couple of things because he kept bugging DC editors. And they're like, "Oh, fine, just we'll let you do a story in an anthology book. We'll let you do a story in an anthology book here." And then finally, he was like, "Okay, we got some work that you can do," but they didn't trust him enough. So like, you're going to work with Tim Seeley on Grayson. So that's why it was 2 people. They didn't know each other. It wasn't like they got together and were like, "You want to write a book together?" No, DC was like, "Hey, you're new. We'll put you with Tim Seeley." And out of that came Tom King. There's people who call him a god now. That's what we were talking about before the show. Some people think that this guy can't do no wrong.
Well, he didn't stick the landing on Grayson, obviously. He left before it ended.
He didn't try to stick.
Although, to be fair, there was one issue that I'm pretty sure he was on, like issue 7, which was pure shit.
But no, I don't think so.
Maybe the training wheels came off.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then he was eating concrete the whole time because I remember like reading 1 through 5 and maybe even 1 through 6. I was like, oh my God, this is
really. I thought it was great until about like 15 or 16.
No,
whenever Colin and Lansing came.
Because there's one bad issue. I remember because it's who was he fighting?
I'm going to look it up here in a second.
You look it up
and see which one you're talking about. But let's go first. Round the table. We call that counterclockwise. Oh, no, that's clockwise. Garrett, what's your opinion on Tom King?
Now it's in favor. Like, I think anything he writes is typically good. Like, I'm looking forward to it because he has a unique take on it. But sometimes when he gets too ambitious, that's where I'm like, whoa, buddy. Like, let's pull it back just a little bit. But I give him like an 8 out of 10 for like what he brings out, but he's bringing out a lot of great content right now, and DC's letting him do anything. So I think it's just like when Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were doing Batman, like they let him do whatever the hell they wanted because that mean you're selling one of the best comics ever, and so was Tom King with Batman. He is a great writer, but I don't know if it's just because of his other works that he's getting all this praise. It might be like, oh, this guy writes Batman right now, like he's the best thing ever.
I wouldn't say his like at least the first 15 issues of Batman, at least for Garrett and I,
poor,
not great. But his Mr. Miracle, his Vision, that Sheriff of Babylon, those are great books. And actually, I think Vision and Mr. Miracle are probably top 2 of Maxi series books. That's holy shit, it is so good, and it actually gives you more relatable substance. I'm sorry, I can't relate to Batman because let's face it, Bane broke my back, I'm dead.
Yeah. You just backflip and you put it back in place.
Watch me stick my legs in this wall and then crack it back into place.
I looked up issue 7. Actually, I remember liking that issue. So not sure what you're talking about.
You must have been drunk because I remember reading.
I looked through all the covers and it wasn't until like mid.
Isn't that the one where it's like he's on the road and he's driving away from people? Or
no. It's him and what's her name? Huntress. Yeah, fighting Kane. It's Mikhail art. If it's Janin, it's good art.
Haneen.
No,
sorry.
but I don't remember. I'll have to look it up myself and show you.
You do your own research. You get back to us on that.
Yeah, let's argue about something that happened 3 years ago. You guys both don't remember.
Big.
Yeah.
John, you told us before the show, one time you spoke out about Tom King and the people went after you. Clear the air now. What do you think of Tom King overall?
I think Tom King is just fine.
I had to quickly swallow just in case it wasn't as kosher, and I was just going to spit, and I thought, no.
Wow, I thought that was going in a different direction.
I've read great stories by him, and some not so great. I think right now it's just like striking gold. I think timing for DC, like the books he's on, the stories he's telling. I don't know. He definitely seems like the golden child at the moment.
Yeah, I think definitely there is a thing about when somebody's popular, there's no way you can any opinion you put out there that's not praising them, you definitely get attacked. For a while, it was when Jeff Johns was doing Green Lanterns. He was the untouchable one. For a while, when Grant Morrison's doing his Batman run, I saw a lot of people. If you didn't like it, they'd be like, "You don't get it," and that's what it was. So it definitely is. That definitely is. He's definitely the one right now that people are like, "Oh, if you don't like it, you don't get his style." And I'll come on the show and call myself out. I've been probably guilty of that a couple of times. Be like, "Oh, it's not. You don't get what he's doing." But I do think he has his own style, so it is very it works for certain characters. It doesn't work for everybody, especially. And the thing is it works for a lot of characters that really are more introspective characters rather than crazy characters. I don't think he really does those kind of crazy characters that great. For instance, if you wrote a Plastic Man book or something like that, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, Tom King's gonna kill that. I don't think so. Mr. Miracle, yeah, it makes sense what he's doing with that book. With Batman, people even for Batman, like you guys were saying, for Batman, people were like, oh, I don't think he's that type of character, and he kind of made him that type of character. That Batman that we're seeing right now is definitely not the Batman that's in Detective Comics. Those are two different people. I mean, they're happening at the same time right now, but those aren't the same guy. One of them is going off into another dimension with Wonder Woman and trying to see how much he really does love his
Selena.
What do you call it? Fiance. And that's the Batman story. Really, it's not the Batman that is trained to be the peak of human perfection.
I like how you look at me, point at me, of course.
I do, because that's the guy you're looking for.
Well, and
right?
also you're flexing from across the room.
I just want him to see what perfection looks like.
And we've seen him now write a couple times, Swamp Thing. And I think actually that character, depending, there's some things that he changes, but I think that character really is about who am I? And that's, if you get a character that needs to examine that, Tom King's your guy. But if you get a character that's not really that kind of guy, like Guy Gardner on Green Lanterns, Tom King's not writing that book. Nobody wants to see that kind of Guy Gardner story. They want to see him punch things and be a jackass. That's Guy Gardner. So I think he is a guy that can write a great story, but he's writing a story about what he knows, which is, what you got to do. You're not going to try to get outside the box there, but he was in the CIA. He went over and was a spy for a while. He says he wasn't, but he can't talk about it. But so,
how could you say that about Tom King?
He came back and started writing comic books, and I think he writes a lot of stories about how he felt at the time and how he felt I guess if there's any superhero nowadays, it's spies that are out there, putting their life on the line for people. And he's kind of reflecting on his work, being how did I feel at the time? What did I feel who am I? Why am I doing this? What about my family? Do I just want a normal life like Batman's doing right now? And I think that's what his stories are. So if you get somebody who's not that kind of character, I think it really doesn't work out.
Yeah, it seems like, again, I don't know his extensive experience with the CIA secret stuff, but
when you were talking about those Tom King fanboys,
I know
you didn't realize one's in the room.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. But I'm just wondering maybe if I don't know, living that lifestyle, being isolated, a lot of introspection and stuff.
I think that's a lot of it, and I think also a lot of it's the kind of stories that he likes. If you ever hear him talk about like the stories that he likes, he's a big Alan Moore guy. He's a big Grant Morrison guy. And I think both of those guys are really, not really Grant Morrison so much. I mean, he does do the story where it's like, who am I? But Grant Morrison can write those silly characters. But Alan Moore especially is a lot of like, who am I? A lot of those stories, taking apart a character and figuring out what they're made of and then trying to put them back together. I think that's what Tom King does. So it's a little bit of that. And also, like you said, like, dude was out there being a spy, no regular contact for, months, years. So I don't even know. It's classified.
What if he was just being a personal secretary at the embassy in a different country?
I can't wait to find out when all this stuff is unredacted and it's unclassified, and it turns out he was a secretary.
He just swept out the hangers.
And he just wasn't supposed to tell you what his boss's favorite donut and cup of coffee was.
He was the guy with the stamper that says confidential.
That's why it's so classified.
One time it got up to 80 degrees in the desert.
So, I mean, you've read Sheriff of Babylon, right?
Yeah.
It's going to come out all collected, so I haven't read it yet. I'm waiting for that one. But I believe like that's his most personal story. He said a lot of that comes from what he saw. So like that's really not really a biography, but if you're going to get something to figure out what he actually did, that's the book. But then I think a lot of these people, and like, but as you said though, if you go like for Swamp Thing, for instance, if he's, you change something in that, was it an annual? What was it? What was that Swamp Thing Batman story?
No, that was an actual issue.
Yeah.
It
was an issue?
Two-parter, wasn't it?
No, it was just one. Off. Yeah.
It's like 21.
You get him, and I think a lot of that also is what?
Sorry, answering his question.
I think also a lot of that is, and you would know, obviously, you get a character that you want to exist on its own, but people constantly have to be like, let's mess around with this character. Let me make it my own a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, no, like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, leave him alone.
Like with Snyder, because obviously Snyder
he did a lot
likes
of
to leave his mark,
Yeah.
And but when he was giving him wings and all this stuff, like, looks cool, doesning make sense.
See, and for me, a lot of that is because a lot of the Swamp Thing, like I read Snyder and Souls, like that whole run before it ended, and that was like the only Swamp Thing that I've read from beginning to end, if you would say. So for me, I was like, oh, that's cool. I know he could do this.
Totally.
But for you, you're like, oh yeah, he just never done this before.
Yeah. But
he really made him and those stories a superhero.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what's funny though is Swamp Thing has done flying before, but it's in a smarter way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not wasting energy by growing wings.
No.
You're just latching on to all of the plant material in the air, pollen.
That's what I was going to say. Doesn't he turn into pollen?
Or he can
and lets him like float with it.
Or he can like morph across the world.
That's what I was going to say too.
Underground.
They even showed that in that a lot of times. He would like show up as a flower like the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, what the fuck? Why did he fly then? When he could have just been like, boom, I'm there.
Well, I feel like it's the exact same scenario with the Lord of the Rings movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever the eagles are carrying them, but they stop prior to Mordor or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you just take them all the way?
Also, I think part of it is at the time, Scott was like, and you're seeing that a lot now in metal. He's like, how can I make this as badass as I want? Rather than being like, this makes sense in the story. I think a lot of Scott Snyder, speaking of the Golden Child, that's the last guy. I think a little bit still. I think that
he may have been. I think he's burnt that.
Is starting to wear out.
He's burnt that bridge both ways. That to me, he's not even that exciting because his things are just all the same.
Well, I think a lot of it comes from in Tom King's done a little pivoting, but I think Scott, a lot of his stuff you start to realize is kind of the same, and you know how it's going to go. So, but he does like being like, how cool can I make this? And I think that's a lot of that Swamp Thing run when you're reading it. Because actually, when you get to Charles Soule's run, a part of that run, it kind of changes a little bit from that to being more like, we'll say grounded, rather than being so crazy.
Yeah.
Because you get like, during Scott's run, there's like crossovers, there's like an event, Rot World, that lasted for way too long.
Oh yeah, way too long. There's multiple realms.
Yeah, and I think that's, we've talked about it with metal, that's what Scott likes to do, being like, what if this was like affecting the whole world? And it's like, buddy, come on, Swamp Thing right here. But if you go back and read like Alan Moore's, like I've been starting to read Alan Moore's, that is really a lot of like, is this a man? Is this a monster? Like, who is this guy? Kind of like the Frankenstein story. And I think, like I said, people like see that and like, but like you said, what if he has wings though?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, so they like to put their own stamp on it. So now Tom King in that Batman one, what was it? They had a abusive father, or what was the thing?
No,
they
so he
changed?
had an estranged father. So
Okay.
he, his dad, I guess, was an alcoholic and a kind of a deadbeat, and he just shows up dead in that story, and it never circles back.
He looked a little bit like Alan Moore, so
He
you know
did.
it was a
He very
direct
much
reference.
did.
And yeah, a lot of people, not just you, a lot of people were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, and you know what's weird about that? I think it's because it's a Swamp Thing character that that they think they could be like, "Well, this guy doesn't have his own book right now. Like, I can do whatever I want with this, right?" Whereas like Batman, I'm pretty sure you have to get like 5 people to clear it, be like, "Oh yeah, you can change something in his origin."
Right.
But Swamp Thing, like, "Oh yeah, whatever you want to do."
Well, and it's not out of the possibility that this character would have existed, but I don't know. There were so many other deaths in Swamp Thing's life that they could have latched onto to find that.
Have they ever
Connective tissue.
had the parent? Has there been any mention of like Al Collins' parents in the past in the series ever?
No,
before
there's been mention of his brother Edward up in Seattle, and then basically the origin is he's out of
Sorry.
he went to school in the Northwest, and so you kind of just assume that his family's from up there. But no, there's
Okay.
never been
Nothing really.
any mention of dysfunction in the Holland
Nice.
family tree.
But it's kind of that. I think you'll see this more with Tom King. We talked about Scott does that too. Well, actually, no. Tom King's a little bit better about that. But these two, I think, and if you read Tom King's Twitter, which I tell you, fanboy, so I'm on there all the time.
I do follow.
He does talk about a lot of times that he'll write something in a comic, and then people will be like, "Hey, you know what? Like this doesn't really make sense because of this." And he'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'll change that for the trade."
Interesting.
So he really it's not like that he knows everything.
yeah.
He's obviously like catching up and reading a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
one of the worst issues of Batman is where he kept repeating, whatever. What was that quote he'd say?
He was telling Band-Aid's going to break him.
back.
Yeah.
He said it over
9?
and over and over again.
That's a little different example than I'm saying, but yeah.
So they fixed it.
They did fix it in the train.
Well, there's the first, it's the Superman, the Super Friends, where Batman and Superman deck KGGGG and KGGGGGG, however, whatever their names were, Douche and Doucher.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, I messed up," because he I think you showed us it, Marvin.
Well, that's also different than what I'm saying. That's more like an
Well, then
error
tell us what you're saying.
where he says something about somebody's like origin or somebody's past, and it's just incorrect.
Oh,
And people are like, "Hey, that's not true." In this issue, actually, they tell you that this is actually what. Well, I forgot what it's his Batman thing.
Sure.
This is actually the Batman thing that actually happened. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. We'll change it." And so it is a lot of, and I guess, when you first start reading these comic books, you just be like, "Oh, yeah, this guy knows everything about Batman."
Yeah.
Of course, why would they give him the Batman?
I
rings?
kind of assume that a bunch of research was done before you even start a book.
But the more and more, I mean, that's the thing about Twitter. The more and more you follow people, they're always like, "Hey, I'm doing research," and then you see them reading Batman, you're like, "Oh, you're how long? 27 issues into a run, and you're doing research still? Like, isn't that like a pre-rep?"
Yeah.
But I think that may come from a lot of it is that they'll read something, they'll read a couple things and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna write this story," and so they don't know everything.
I'd actually give that to the editor, though. That's the editor's fault for being like,
Yeah, that's
"Oh,
true.
hey, you're changing
Yeah.
something."
But then again, like I'm talking about Golden Child, some people
Yeah, that's
have less reins than other people. So, but I think like somebody like Grant Morrison is great about like going back and being like, "Oh, I know this specific thing. Like I'm reading these old. He's been reading forever." So so he'll find something and bring it back. Where I think a lot of new writers, especially, like to be like, "I'll make something up," and it's like, okay, and they try to retcon it back into continuity. Where Grant Morrison's like, "This actually happened before, but it never went anywhere. Let's make it into something."
Well, and I can't imagine what the conversation is before these writers start on any, like, just for instance, DC book now, because it's like the universes are in such flux.
Yeah.
I imagine when they're getting this explained to them, like, "Hey, you're going to start on Batman. Everything's up in the air. Have a ball,"
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, in that case, I'm going to do what I want,
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty sure like it's probably for them also very daunting to be like, "Oh, you want me to write Batman?" Like you can't know everything unless like you would have to do so much research before you start. Like I'm not saying that it's on them, but then a lot of times you get somebody who write like a Swamp Thing. They'd be like, "Great, I want to write." Like it's always been my passion, but you kind of being like, "Well, I think maybe because you can read." A little bit, not as much as you're going to read with Batman.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a really cool story where Joshua Dysart worked on a Swamp Thing for a short bit, and he was in contact with a guy who I've become friends with, who is a Swamp Thing know-it-all, like everything in terms of like continuity and stuff. Well, Dysart was emailing him scripts before they were being published. And this guy, Rich Hanley, would go through and just say, yep, yeah, you're good to go. This is great. And I think outsourcing would be awesome.
I've heard of some people doing that. I forget who it was. I think it might be Bendis. No, it can't be Bendis. There's no way that's possible. It's somebody else. There is somebody who does do that. They have like a friend who's like knows everything, and they send it their way to be like, is there anything out of here that's you're gonna be like, oh no, that's not true, and get it vetted. You're right though, like that should be a thing. And actually, like, up to what Garrett was saying, that really should be like an editor, not necessarily an editor in terms of like the story, how it flows, the content, stuff like that. That it really should be somebody there that is a DC, database,
even if it's
basically
like PR or something. Just like, hey, let's not fuck up.
To be there and just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's okay.
Well, what's great about this Dice Art story thing is there was one issue where apparently Dice Art was really busy and he didn't get a chance to send the script to this guy, Rich. And in that issue, there's some crazy continuity problems. And after it was published, Rich was like, what did you do? And he's like, I was really busy and I didn't get a chance to send you script. He's like, you messed up on a few things. Wow. And he's always said he's wanted to like go back or like flesh that part out, You know
what's weird is, speaking back about Tom King, it's like you're saying he wishes he could go back and like fix that. Mm-hmm. I've never seen where like Tom King's like 3 times already has been like, oh yeah, we'll fix that in the trade. I guess that's what they're doing now.
I find that very odd.
You can write for the issue and then be like, oh, yeah, we'll fix it in trade. No, there's no worries. So no worries that you guys are wrong.
I almost wish that they'd remake the issue then and fix it the right way. And
but when it gets to reprint, that's permanent. Like, they're not changing it after it goes in trade.
And it seems like that mindset goes along with like the format of comics now, where everyone apparently I've been told like trades are where it's at.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, well, it doesn't matter anyway because more people are going to buy the trade, which that's such a crappy attitude.
It definitely is where people are buying comics nowadays. Yeah. And actually, when they fix stuff too, digitally it gets fixed because obviously it's like a living copy. You can do updates. Mm-hmm. I've had it where I've ordered my Comixology before and like all these issues have updated. And it's like, oh, okay.
That's wild.
But the actual paper issue, obviously you can't, there's no way unless you recall them. And they're not going to recall books. No, there's no way that's possible. Huh. Actually, they have.
Well, they recalled that issue 41 of Saga. Not that anyone actually gave it back, but they had darkened out the cover too much. And so they had to, quote unquote, recall.
They also recalled X-Men Gold #1 too.
Yeah.
Because of that issue. But I think it's such
that baby for millions.
I believe it's such a hassle for a single issue that they'll only do it if they really have to.
Didn't DC like forget a page or something? Maybe within the past 2 or 3 years? And then they came out with the same book with the fix.
I believe there was a page repeated twice.
Maybe was it.
It was missed, but it, like in page count, it still worked. So that's why they were like, they didn't notice it. And I do know in digital they did fix it because I remember seeing that people would be like, some people would be like, oh yeah, this page is messed up. So people like, find my copy.
Yeah.
And be like, oh yeah, because you didn't get the update.
It's so funny.
So it is definitely, and like what you guys were saying, that it kind of is weird that they don't really care about single issue people. But if you look at those numbers, the numbers that we can see, that's definitely not where it's at. Well, or I don't know how they're surviving. So it must be in trades. It must be in digital. It must be in these subscription formats like Comixology Unlimited and Hoopla and Marvel Unlimited and stuff like that. DC's getting into that business too. So there must be some sort of money to be made there.
Yeah.
And I think really, if you look, I don't think anybody like single issues is like us. Because like those movies make tons of money. Even movies that you're like, oh, that's not a good movie, like Suicide Squad, one of the top 10 movies that year in grossing. And Batman versus Superman, even made more money. So like they're making money, but nobody's buying those single issues to look at those numbers.
No.
So it has to be in those trades.
I find it so odd that we're buying the first draft of a comic.
And that's kind of what it is, right?
That's true.
And, I mean, it goes back to even if you think about it, to another industry that is like video games. They do the same thing. They'll release it,
right?
And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't work. Oh, we'll patch it up."
Yeah,
and it's like they're not even done yet. Where's the QA? And that might go back to being like, there's no DC continuity person. There's no continuity person. There's no real editors. They really don't care because they're like, our editors now are readers. They'll be like, "Oh, that doesn't make sense. Oh, we'll fix them the trade." So,
could you imagine buying a car like that? Engine doesn't work at the moment, but.
Yeah, this is kind of weird. Like as an editor, like I get like you got to make sure like grammar's correct and things like that. That the whole book itself comes together. But you'd think that somewhere, if you're like the Batman editor, he should probably know a lot about Batman's history. Or
To be fair, I find a lot of grammatical errors though, so those editors still aren't doing their job.
I know, but it's like exactly like what do they do? I mean, do they just like, oh, good, you got 20 pages, good, we'll send it out. Like, there should be someone else.
I think more an editor's job these days is to be like the Batman editor, make sure all the stories are like coming out on time, make sure they're like on that 2-week schedule. And I think that might be part of why their job of making sure everything is. By the way, 10 minutes ago, did not realize this till you just said this. So this is new information. I think the reason why this continuity thing and these grammatical errors are passing through is because they have to be pushing out so many issues that they don't have time to make sure that stuff's correct. They have to be like, are you on time? You're not? Okay, let's make sure we get a new artist on this book. Make sure that we delay this book and we'll do it next month and we'll put a one shot in place of that. And I think that's their job now. That's why.
Well, they should get like a Batman editing group then.
Definitely.
Groups for each character.
But like if John was saying, he's heard that the trades where the money's where it's at, and if it has to be, otherwise I don't know how these guys are surviving. If that is the case, then actually it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, your fans are doing the editing.
Yeah,
if they complain,
why hire somebody?
Okay, change it.
Why pay somebody $60,000 a year when you got these people, and they'll let you know.
Oh yeah,
they'll let you know. They'll let you know if something's wrong. They'll tell you and be like, "Oh fuck, we'll fix it."
Yeah,
and then we'll fix it for the digital. We'll fix it in the trade. Thank you for buying the issue, but I know there's no way to ever fix that. So, but then again, do they become more collectible that way then because the mistakes in there?
Yeah,
they fixed it everywhere else.
That crossed my mind.
So,
yeah, sometimes like when there's like a misprinted stamp, that sells for like 10 times what it's worth. So I mean,
John, what is that? I know you've been collecting comics for a while and you're really into the collectible part of it. What makes a printing error collectible?
Oof, man, there's the problem with the collecting market right now.
Yeah.
People just assume any error is like, oh, that makes it way more expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm sure people would argue, but so let's say a comic comes out and has a double cover.
Yeah.
That's just an assembly line error. That's not like, an old baseball card where the guy's number is wrong, and like that's deeply ingrained in the error, Off assembly line production errors, I don't see any extra added value. Someone screwed up and you're paying more.
I do see, whenever that happens, I do see also on eBay, it's like selling for 3 times the price.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for what? A page is missing? Not a page is missing, but like you had it once where like there was lines over the dialogue. It's like, okay, that's an error. Like, obviously, the printer didn't print right. Mm-hmm. Like that X-Men Gold makes sense. That was a controversy. They pulled it for a reason. If you have that, then it's like I have proof this existed. It's controversy. Mm-hmm. The what was the other thing? The other one that got pulled? You talked about?
Oh, Saga.
Well, see, that doesn't even make sense. That's the one you're talking about. That original cover sells for a lot, but for what? The cover's darker.
Right. Yeah. I can't see the character, so why does it matter?
Somebody fucked up and put the brightness up.
But here's a really cool twist on the whole production error F-up being rewarding. So I've heard stories where old comics, 50s, 60s, era comics, they were printed with a double cover by accident. So there's so much shelf wear on that external double cover that it almost acts like a dust jacket.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard where people will just take that off and then get it graded, which I don't agree with. But anyway, you get it graded and it's worth a ton more money because it had that technical
so
dust.
They get damaged.
Yeah. So you can just be like, well, screw the double cover. No one's going to pay extra for a crap cover. And then they have this pristine one underneath, which is kind of wild.
Huh.
Are you into slating and grading?
Absolutely not.
I don't understand. Whenever I see that a lot online, people be like, man, look what I got slated and graded. Mm-hmm. And I understand maybe this is the only part. If you get Action Comics one, great. Do it.
I agree. Yeah.
But somebody will get like Rogue and Gambit 2 and be like, I got slated and graded, baby. It's like, nobody's ever going to ask you for that comic. If they are, they want to read it.
That's where it leaves a bad taste in my mouth is when you get online and you're looking at prices.
Yeah.
And it's the most trivial issue you can imagine. But just because they got it graded, now it's $60 because it cost that much to get it graded. And it's like, screw you. Now some poor dude that just wants to get that whole run can't because you just, toss it behind glass. It means nothing.
I know. It's like if you had a museum, you're like, everything ever in my life is behind this fucking glass. You're like, for what?
Yeah.
I go, maybe if you got like you found the bones of a T-Rex, go ahead and put it behind glass. But the guy's like, I found bones of this dog in my backyard. It's like, who cares?
Well, the glass costs $300, so
you pay that ticket. Come in and see this dog. So
yeah, I agree. It has to be some certain like landmark issue or something crazy for me to even contemplate doing.
Go to eBay. Every issue that comes out that week, somebody's got it fucking on there.
It's nuts.
It's mint, graded. And whenever I see that, I'm always like, I think that especially a lot of people who get comics in like don't actually get it because they're actual fans of the comics. They get it because they go, "Oh, I've heard you can make money making comics."
The speculative market. Oh, drive me nuts.
And I do think in the last 5 years that's really came back. I don't know why, but well, I know why. New 52 did a lot to be like, "Hey guys, we got this lenticular covers. Hey guys, we got did all this stuff to make sure that market was buying comics."
Yeah,
and recently. If you go on there every single week, there's always every comic that came out that week. They're always or I guess they'll be I'm sending this in, and I'm always seeing it. I see it on the message boards, and I want to just comment why, but I don't want to be why put that negativity out?
Yeah.
I'll do it on the podcast. But I'm always for what? Nobody's ever going to be 20 years from now, I'll be Rogan Gambit number 2. I gotta find that, and I make sure it's behind some glass because that can't get ruined. It's gonna come out in trade and digital. If I want to read, I'm gonna read it. Nobody's gonna. It's not collectible at all. Now, I guess for any reason, if a movie comes out,
right, that's the problem.
That's the only thing. They're waiting for those movies to come out. But then, even then, who's going to go find it? It's somebody who's "Oh, I'm interested in that movie. I want to read that." They're not going to be "Let me get this slated and graded." Maybe no, it's not. So I think, I think that's why they don't care about the comic market, the issue market anymore. It's because a lot of that is people who either the speculative market especially, but a lot of their readers that get issues, I think, and it's sad to say, but I think it's an older crowd. I think it's a lot of crowd that they understand how this system works. Anytime I try to explain any kind of comic system to anybody, it's very confusing. It might come out. It comes out month to month. Maybe we'll see if it gets delayed. They're $3.99 each. You have to go to the comic store to get them, and it's very confusing for anybody. So I think trades and digital is where it's at, because digital obviously you can literally be subscribe to this and it'll come to you. You can be a trade. Oh, okay. I'll just go on Amazon and there it is. Okay. So and it's so much easier. And I'm not sure how we got to this. We're talking about Tom King.
I don't know. You're going on a tangent.
Well, we brought up the trade market.
But to go along with what you were saying, I find it so odd that this is the format of reading nowadays.
Yeah.
Because the whole reason why when you were a kid you fell in love with comics is because it came out once a month, or whatever, maybe sooner, depending on what you're reading. And you get to go to this one spot to get that book, and then you get to take it home and read it. But now with trades, why would you show up once a month to this cool shop just to be okay, see you in a month?
Yeah.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah, I think before there was some sort of there's some joy about being I'm going to go to this shop and once a month and I get this issue. I can see what happens next in this story. There's a lot of that. And if you're a fan of TV back in how it used to be, that's how the TV was. So I can tune in next week to watch this.
Yeah.
But now I think you see a lot of parallels with binging.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are oh, I can't watch TV week to week. I don't want to even watch TV anymore. I have to wait for it to get binged.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where's that? There's no more joy in being see what happens next month. See what happens next week. There's no more joy in that anymore. It's just oh no, I can't wait. I need this all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be another reason why the issues aren't selling as great, because people are oh, I get to read 22 pages of a possible 100-page story. I'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's different kind of mindsets. I think if you've been in the game long enough that being oh no, this is how I'm going to read these comics because I want to see it. But especially people who've seen the movies, I think for them it's so foreign, especially if you're younger. You're used to TV shows coming out that way. You're used to movies that coming out. You watch the whole thing. So you're not going to be what do you mean you can go read issue to issue? Because nobody watches TV shows episodes anymore. They watch season 1. They watch season 2. And so I think, that might be where it comes from too. Tom King, by the way, going back to Tom King.
That was 20 minutes ago.
They should try doing that. Sorry, we're still on the tangent.
No,
here,
let's go on this. Tom King, we said no.
They should totally try doing that. Maybe they already have whatever, but just unload and dump 5 trade looking.
That's how the industry started
for months.
It did quarterly.
Yeah.
It never used to do monthly. So it'd be 3 months of content you would get in one book.
Oh.
We've been saying for months, DC, Marvel, whoever wants to do it, I'm on your ship. Let's go. Go back to a quarterly book that has a whole arc. And it's a trade. Put out the trade and put it on digital right away.
That'd be so exciting.
And being here's the story. Maybe, you don't have to do Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously Batman's not going to be this is the whole thing. But you can be here's a Batman arc. The next arc is I was going to continue that story. But just like a TV show, you wait till the next season comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but people wouldn't even have patience for that then. Oh, man, I got to get the next arc.
They do wait for TV shows. I think the issue bothers people because there's no conclusion. There's no if you can make it like so the arc is a fully contained story, yet ... something else is going to happen. Spoilers, Stranger Things. At the end he spits up the Demogorgon into the sink, and you're like, what's going to happen? Boom, cut, and you're like, what's going to happen next season? If you do something like that, that's fine. That's a whole contained story, but enough to be like, I want to see what happens next. Yeah.
Yeah, like Batman and Superman, that's how, I've collected a lot of like the archives or things back in the Origins. Yeah, you get 3 to 4 issues, and like Marvin says, you get a whole arc.
Oh.
And then it feeds off into the next thing.
That's a lot of the show. All of a sudden I realized I'm talking about something that's already been announced. They actually just announced something like that, and actually I'm on board. Kurt Busiek announced that Astro City is not coming out in issues anymore. They're just going to come out in trades with a full contained story.
Cool.
He said that obviously he sees the way the market's going, and those stories can be like a trade. So from now on, I'm not sure when it's going to start, but no more issues. Just every like 3 months a trade will come out, and that'll be a next story.
Cool.
Like he's just going to, obviously the same work cycle is the same. Do an issue by time, send it in, and then this time it just gets put out as a trade. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's not as rushed either for the team. They have time to get it ready.
And people complain all the time about how expensive this hobby is. If you put it out, there's less cost because the printing, you do it all at once. Mm-hmm. You cut down on the price a little bit. Maybe, yes, you lose some people because they want to read month to month. But if you can stagger the schedule in a way where each week or every 2 weeks, something comes out.
Totally.
Somebody who wants to read Batman, Superman.
Focus on a different character.
Yeah. That would
still tie some stuff. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Really, I do think that's the way to... I mean, eventually there's going to come a breaking point when all the people who are into issues aren't going to get comics anymore because obviously they're getting older. And there's going to be a point when they're trying to cater to who's buying comics now, and they see it's all trades where they're going to start announcing... like DC does these little miniseries every once in a while. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we're switching those are just be trades that come out. There'll be a full story. Mm-hmm. These characters who can do that, like a Dead Man, Swamp Thing, where it's not a thing where they have a series, they have a winter special every once in a while. So, rootsoftheswampthing.com, your definitive online source for all things Swamp Thing. Holland Files number 2 is out. Garrett, how is it?
Holland File 2's was awesome. A lot of cool like images that you haven't got to see in Holland Files number 1, so definitely looking forward to finishing this bad boy.
And that's not the only thing. If you want to learn more about Swamp Thing, Alex, where would you go?
You're going to go to rootsoftheswampthing.com.
Make sure to stay in touch at rootsoftheswampthing.com on Twitter at DC World Swampy, Facebook.com/rootsoftheswampthing. Speaking of Tom King, we got Batman number 40. It's Tom King, Joelle Jones, and Jordi Belair. The fourth part of Super Friends, right? But the second part of Wonder Woman story, we have in this story, the second part, they're stuck in this other alternate dimension. The first one we learned what's it? Silent Man? No, it's Silent Man.
The Gentleman.
The Gentleman tricks them going to this other dimension to fight the Horde. It's everlasting. And time passes different over there. You don't age, but time passes very quickly. It could be 10 minutes and it's a decade over there. No, an hour. An hour's a decade. So he wants to be brought back to the normal universe to see his wife. And so he tricks Wonder Woman and Batman to go over there. So they're stuck over there. Meanwhile, Catwoman's trying to get the Gentleman to bring him back. So he says, okay, I'll go help you I'll bring you to your wife, but you have to agree to bring them back. So the last issue ended with Wonder Woman and Batman almost kissing. You're like, holy shit, already this guy's cheating. They're not even married.
It was 10 years.
I tell you what.
Statute of limitations.
That's the thing.
I was honestly surprised. Oh, come on. Don't let that happen.
But here's the thing you got to think about. I thought the same thing too, but then I thought about two things. One, they've been in a relationship before, so it's like an ex-girlfriend. Two, like Garrett said, it's fucking been like 40 years. So
yeah,
if you don't think you're going to be able to get out, like at one point do you be like,
I need to have my happiness.
This is going to be life, and you see him. That's kind of the mindset that he's going in. Wonder Woman's kind of in that mindset too. But then this issue, he shows Batman being like, "No, I can't. I love her," and her being like, "She must be a great woman." And I think that's the closure because all these issues kind of have been, at least for the last couple
hours. And her with Steve too.
Yeah, with Steve too. So a lot of these issues recently have been.
Is she actually dating Steve?
No,
yeah. No, they're back together.
Oh, he's back?
What do you mean he's dead?
And what book are they dating?
Did he die in Wonder Woman?
No, he's not dead in Wonder Woman, but they kind of hang out. But
was it, that annual? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
declare their love for each other.
Oh,
I don't know if that's necessarily dating, but she even says it in there.
well, I mean, I know they talk about it in here.
Oh,
but
he just say. Oh, sorry, I misread what she said. I thought she said Steve Trevor was a good man, but she says is. So.
Yeah.
He's alive.
He's alive.
Well, he's not dead. I'm just saying. I don't think they're actually going together.
I think she still has feelings for him. Maybe that's part of it. It's so they. Fuck, what was I gonna say now? Oh, so he thinks that's it. So, but then she's like, no, she's a good woman, and I think closure for that relationship, and I think that's what these last couple arcs have been. The Talia thing, closure. This has been a closure, and then what was between Talia and this? Superman, kind of getting like basically his permission. Not really, but
it's having your best friend meet your girlfriend or your fiance.
Yeah, and it was because he had a preconceived notion of who she was, and it was Batman being like, she's not that person, and here's why I want to marry her, and he understood at the end of it. It was just like him and Lois why he wanted to be with her. They really do connect. And so, like you said, yeah, so it was the ex-wife, the best friend, and then now we former flame. I think actually I really did like this a lot. What would you guys?
Oh, I loved it.
Yes.
Joelle Jones, obviously, that she needs to be on.
Right.
So many books.
She was the top of my list or at least one of my top lists for drawing. This book is beautiful.
Jordi Belair, we can't say enough about these colors, right?
Holy cow. That was that. I can't even talk. It was smoking.
Yeah.
Joelle Jones, I think now after this issue or last couple issues, and that she did the Talia one, I think actually she might be in the rotation now because it's the second time she's came back. We had Clayman for the Superman part, and then we have Joelle Jones for the Wonder Woman part.
I think she has to be part of the rotation. She is actually put out, and it may have to do a little bit with the writing, but I tell you what, her art just makes this book pop. And so if she's not in the rotation, that's unfortunate.
I'm kind of ready for Haneen and Finch to be done on that book anyways. Like, I don't think they've given me something that has made me ever go, oh.
Haneen I do like. I think Finch depends what... I mean, Jordy makes them all look good, so it doesn't really matter. The only thing I would wish, and Tom King, if you're listening, the only thing I would wish is that they keep bringing back Joelle to do like the women arcs, like Talia and then now Wonder Woman. It's like she can do more than that. So like, just have her be in regular rotation. She doesn't need to just be brought back to draw when it's gonna be Batman and some lady. Like she can be doing other stuff too. Like you could have been her and Superman. I would love to see her draw Superman.
Yeah.
So I did like it a lot. Like I said, art's amazing, but also the story. You get a story. The way it's told, a little confusing because sometimes they'll cut to them at year 31, sometimes year 14, and it wasn't in order really. It was like 19, 14, 31.
Yeah.
And it's kind of all over the place, kind of the timeline's kind of messed up. It's not very linear, but otherwise, I never had issues following it though. I thought it was really great.
I do love, I think the Gentleman character himself though, give me a comic book about that.
Yeah.
I thought like Tom King, I don't know if you just made this out of thin air. If you did, that character deserves a comic. Like I would love to learn about that character.
I would want it to be just like a 6-issue run though.
Yeah.
I don't think his character, that Horde is everlasting.
But it is, but it's kind of like Father Time, you know, when the end of the world's coming, that's what's going to happen. So it's like this character, he's just going to keep fighting, and it'd be cool to see how he got to that point, that whole mythology. I was like, it's such a simple concept for this book, but it has so much potential for more stories, and I was like, that's cool. That was sweet.
There's a couple of moments in here I really did love. When they first come back, the Gentleman goes back to the Horde, and they bring back Batman and Wonder Woman. Catwoman's there, and she's kind of has a tear going down her face, and Bruce has home, and they see each other, and she's obviously super happy that her husband's back. But if you think about it from Bruce's perspective, it's the first time he's seen her in like, what, 40 years almost?
Yeah.
And then he says goodbye to Wonder Woman. Catwoman's at the end of the bridge, kind of just sitting there waiting. She's obviously thinking what might have happened between the two. She knows they used to date. She knows it's been 40 years. Like, she's probably not going to hold them accountable for anything that's happened over there. But Diana comes over and she says to Catwoman, I thought this was really great. She says, but I think maybe everybody's wrong. Oh, she said, you're a criminal, right? Or that's what everybody says. You steal things. But I think maybe everyone's wrong. I think maybe you are a hero. And I'm happy my friend has found his love in you. And in that moment, it's kind of like the Talia thing where she's like, I do like you. Where she gives the okay being like, yeah. And Superman says the same thing too. Where everybody's has to like check off because they've gone against Catwoman before as a villain. Now they're like, no, you have changed. And it's this page here. Catwoman asks Bruce straight up,
Were you good?
Is there something to tell me? Yeah.
37 years, so Wonder Woman, were you bad? Not bad, but not good enough. And she says, okay, this is new, but I'm trying. She goes, yes, we'll try harder. So you could tell she's upset about it. Obviously, he tells her that he wasn't 100% loyal. He still had those thoughts. They got close. Does he kiss her on the nose?
Doesn't kiss.
They don't even touch.
No, I thought it looked like they kissed.
They might have been holding hands, but they never.
She had his hand on his thigh.
They never kiss.
Well, I guess they tilt foreheads together, maybe.
Oh, yeah, they do go nose to nose.
But either
French.
way,
That's what do you call that?
Eskimo kisses.
Eskimo kisses. They go Eskimo style. So he's like, obviously he wasn't 100% loyal. You don't do that kind of stuff with somebody who you're just like hanging out with. So, but she's like, we'll try harder. So she obviously doesn't blame him, but she's still jealous and upset about it, which is understandable.
Right.
I mean, they're together. For her, it was almost 4 hours only.
Yeah.
And for him though, 37 years. So,
and it's like, that's kind of who was it more of a hell for? Catwoman or Batman?
I think it's a great way for Tom King. What are you going to say?
Nothing.
I thought it was a great way for Tom King to show, like, obviously he wanted to show that it's possible there's still something there between those two characters, Wonder Woman and Batman, but you can't have Bruce go off 4 hours with her and then fall in love with her or like have that moment, because then you're like, Bruce is a fucking dick. Like, he's 4 hours with some other girl and he's already going to kiss her. But 37 years, different story, right? So it's a nice way to be like, well, what if he was somewhere with Wonder Woman where he didn't know how long he's going to be there? What are the things running through his mind? What if he doesn't know he's going to leave? Like, does he really go back to her? What's going to happen? So it's a nice way to tell that kind of story, kind of stretch time, kind of play with time a little bit, bring him back. And then you still can have the same, I guess, moral of the story being like, he did have feelings for her, but he realized in that moment
He loves Selena more.
He loves Selena more, that those are more just old feelings that he had to get rid of. So, and, excited to see what comes next. I'm not sure what comes next.
I'm not sure either.
I think the other thing to take part, and I realized a lot of it was really the relationship between Wonder Woman, Catwoman, and Batman, but just seeing the camaraderie that Batman and Wonder Woman have, that every time either of them gets fatigued while fighting this everlasting horde, the other is there to pick up the slack, or the other one there is to remind them we are together in this fight. So when Wonder Woman is tired, I think she's getting tired, she's getting fatigued, and she goes, we are, and you watch Bruce go, together. And so it was nice to see them be a team and to just remind each other, you're not alone in this fight.
Those are great moments in that fight. You could tell in battle, those two work really well together. And I think maybe that was part of their attraction to each other in the past, and that's why he goes and asks, she's like, why not Superman? Catwoman says that, and he goes, well, over here you can't release your powers in this universe, and we're the two best fighters.
Yep.
So we're going to be the best fighters. And I think that's part of why she likes him a lot. Wonder Woman likes Bruce a lot. It's because on Themyscira, being a warrior is what makes you great. And so she sees in him being like, he's a great warrior. And that's part of what Talia too, like, she loves that he's a great detective. So we're seeing all these aspects of Bruce, Batman, the detective, the warrior, and Superman, the friend, the partner, and seeing why everybody's being like, yeah, you're a good fit in this way for Bruce. And they're all giving the sign off being like, yes, you're a good warrior too, you're a good fighter too, or you're a good detective, and you're a good partner for him. So that was great. Next arc is Hanine. Yeah. Poison Ivy. So.
Oh, cool.
I love
I'm not sure what that'll be, but it's Poison Ivy's story. So, well, Alex was laughing a second ago because for like the 6th week in a row, I spilled on myself by trying to drink something. So,
which is weird. You're not even trying to talk. You're literally sitting back.
That's literally the only thing I'm trying to do.
Donald Trump drinking the water bottles.
Oh, it's on me.
I think maybe my balance is off a little bit.
Could be. That's that coffee you had. Bonkers.
But I give this a 10 out of 10.
Oh, this was
same.
a 10.
Yeah.
The last two issues, especially, if you put these two together, it's one of the best arcs of this Batman run.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like that same Talia. That was great.
Oh yeah. I tell you what, Batman has just been, even the was 2 issues ago. Was the one
origin
one
story?
shot?
That was horrifying.
Yeah, it was scary.
Ever
shit.
since, I mean, there was kind of mixed feelings on that War of Jokes and Riddles, but post that, every single issue, gold.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
This whole and even pre that, the Catwoman story,
24?
everything Catwoman and Bruce together has been great. I do know that July 4th is the wedding. They announced the other day. I think it's the 50th issue of Batman supposed to come out. No, is that right?
That could be right.
5 weeks? Not 5 weeks. Every 2 weeks.
Because it's what? This is issue 40?
Yeah.
So 20 weeks away. Maybe that's right.
Yeah, it's July. It's 5 months. Yeah, it makes sense. They announced July 4th is coming out. It's going to be the 50th issue. It's going to be the wedding. So we'll see if it actually happens, what happens. But I think they're setting us up for all these people signing off, Bruce being happy, and then
Shit hits the fan.
Bane comes back in and kills Catwoman or something.
Holy shit.
And then we get a story of Batman versus Bane, and it's going to be
No
him
holds barred.
wanting to kill him, yeah.
Damn. Pretty sweet.
So you know what else we got this week? We got there's some killing in this book. Versus, written by Ivan Brandon, art by Asad Ribic, and colors by Nick Klein.
This book's awesome.
Yeah.
We can say it right away. Asad Ribic's art is the reason this book, the initial reason that this book is amazing.
That was the main reason I got the book.
Right.
Was just for the art alone.
Right.
I don't know if I know who Ivan Brandon is who he is, what he's written before.
Right.
Drifter for Image, he talks about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I read, hey, by the way, I literally read the back
Letters
pages.
page?
You
Yes.
did?
Nice.
I did.
I think
one
also-
page of it?
That one page.
I think also he works for Paramount,
That's what
and
he said. Yeah.
does some work. He's like actually a Hollywood guy. He does movies, but he does comics like on the side. So
So we basically get a future world where war is spectated. It's a spectator sport. At least, so that's the part where I'm iffy on it. Because like there's times where Flynn can kind of just like leave his consciousness and be uploaded into this.
Yeah.
So that part I don't quite understand. But I know like before he was like hooked into something. But when he's in the car at the end, he just like fades out to what's going on right now. And then he is just like back in the game. So
Yeah, I was kind of confused. It didn't seem like it when we had talked about it. I thought it was going to be more of a literally they are fighting. But one of the girls in this book, she does something that disqualifies her. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
almost like this is a game.
it is a game. Like it was on pause, and she created a penalty by doing something she started getting.
she
shot
attacked
somebody.
the camera.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And so then you saw that substitution where
So
she
it's
went
not,
into
so this book isn't even. It's a game.
Well, it's war, but it's kind of like Hunger Games where they film it and it's shown for the public. It's kind of like if it was a video game like a Call of Duty. You know how they do sports, esports where they fight each other, but they're actually really people and they're actually out there getting hurt. And they're actually dying. It comes to a point when in the future where instead of they don't want to see any avatars fighting each other anymore, they want to see real people and real stakes and real they want to see if they're going to die or not. This?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
No, I
I
thought
know
that was
you.
mine.
Exactly.
You know what? This is the book. This is a book that I feel like is not for me because
Oh,
I
really?
really love
Are you
the
not gonna keep
art.
getting it?
No, I really do love the art, but I was not interested in anything that happened in this book.
Oh, that
I
surprises
thought
me.
the story. I'm like halfway. Like I feel like I'm still gonna get it because it's Asad Ribic. I can't pass that up. But
But how long is he on the book?
Yeah, and say how long?
yeah,
are you gonna get-
if he doesn't stay on it, then
It sounds like it's him and Ivan's book, but how often is it going to come out?
Yeah, because it's like a war world basically, and I feel like they should have given you a little bit more of a breakdown of the rules.
Yeah,
like, I
that's
get they're
what I'm saying.
trying to do the hard
The
open.
world
but-
seems interesting, but the story in this book, and I think it actually might be how the narrative's set up because you were talking about that. You're like, I don't get what's going on. I think it's because it jumps in time. Like he's injured, but we jump from him in the game, and then he's injured, and then we go back to him in the game, or him in that bed, like looking at it, and him in the game. But I think the him injured is actually way in the future, and we haven't seen how he got injured yet.
Oh,
So it was really confusing, but I think it was not confusing in the
kind
way.
of seemed like Matrix style though too.
Yeah.
Like he just gets jacked in while he's recovering.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. But I think it's supposed to be that you're not supposed to understand right now, but also like I feel like I need to understand a little bit more to keep on in this book, and I think that's part of it for me.
That would have been nice, like if you open the first page and it just gives you like a little, not even a paragraph, but just a little breakdown of how the game works, so that I know what I'm reading when I go in.
Yeah, and I think it's different when you watch a movie and it has something that's high concept like this, because by the end of the movie, you'll have the full story and I'll know how it works. But with a number one issue like this, I'm reading this being like, I really have to decide to get more issues to understand this. Like it really didn't work on its own as a one issue. I don't think anyways. It didn't interest me that much. The art was really great, I thought. And some of the scenes, like some of the 2-page spreads, I was like, man, this looks great. And if that's what this first issue, if it would have just been like a battle, I would have been like, okay, I'm in. It could explain the rules more and stuff like that. But it felt like it wanted to seem grander than it is in the first issue, and then maybe it'll scale down later on. But for me, I don't know. It just didn't seem like there's something that's really violent, like the killing in this book and stuff like that. That's really like that's the main draw to the book. Is really not for me. So when I was reading that, I was like, oh, not really for me.
I feel like when you said it's like Hunger Games, I feel like that's exactly what the plot's going to be. It's going to be these two factions fighting each other. And eventually, it's going to be Big Brother they're going to fight. But
I do think that instead of Hunger Games, instead of them like forcing people to go, they actually do want to go because they want to be celebrities. And that's why she gets so mad, being like, "Why are you taking me out of this game?" And she's really upset that they're pulling her. And he's like, "No, you sit on the bench and bring somebody else out." It's kind of like football. Like they choose to play the game. Yep. They know that they can get concussed or get some sort of long-term damage. They know that they can die in this game, just like. So
you are jacked in, but you can die in the game, which kills
I think
you in
actually
real life.
They're really there.
Yeah, he's saying that it's more of a shift in like times. Like when he's in the game, this is before we see him.
Okay. So we're seeing different times, but it's not okay.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas they make it seem like that's why I was saying it's kind of like Matrix, where you're actually jacked in because after you see the first couple pages of the battle, then you transition to him coming out of like this little dome thing that he was recovering in. So that's where it's like.
And the thing with me saying all this, I don't think it's bad.
Right.
I read it and it was like, oh, I'm sure this is good for somebody who cares more, but nothing ever grabbed me to be like, oh, this is my book. Like the kind of book I want to read. But.
See, when I read this, I read it as Suiciders, and I loved Suiciders, where you fought to the death, and that was the whole thing. Was it was almost like a boxing idea where you fight to be the champ, and the longer you're the champ, the more people want to fight you. So I was excited to read this and go, oh, there's some stakes. People are gonna die. And
I think that might be part of it. People might be dying like you die for glory. And because obviously when he was in the hospital, he got injured in the game, and he was leaving, and all the paparazzi were like, hey, tell us something, whatever. Yep. And he stood up out of the wheelchair, and he walked to his car by himself. So obviously, and he was in pain. He was like, they cut off his leg to put a robotic leg on. Yep. And so obviously he lost the leg, so it's real.
Yeah.
And that just interests me, but the only thing that scares me about getting another issue is how long does it take to get there, and it's a Rubik. Do I never find out because it never comes out? So.
I think that's the reason that I'm willing to get this book, is that I know it's not going to be a book that comes out twice a month, or maybe not even every month.
Yeah, if you come,
it's going to be a Sex Criminals where I get maybe 3 issues a year, and I'm like, oh, I forgot what happened, but it looks so good, and I actually do enjoy the story.
So yeah, only time will tell, but yeah, I'm going to give it an 8, I think. I'm seriously, purely that's on Rubik's art, but story-wise, I'd probably give it a 7.
I'm going to give it a 9 due to the art, because when that first page I opened, when you see the world, it's like, oh man, that just looks amazing. And so the story may not be super pressing, may not even be that impressive, but that art is enough to make me want to get the next issue.
I give it a 7. I mean, the art was really great. It's just like I said. Well, at least the first 3 issues are solicited for February, March, and April, but there's no other issues solicited past that. So
maybe it's only a 4-issue run.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll see. But like I said, I didn't think it was bad. I did read this being like, oh, this is actually pretty well produced and set up. But I feel like maybe it's not for me.
I wish I had your power to actually be like, that's not my kind of book.
And that's the thing, though. Like, if you go and if I turn on the TV and I start watching cricket, I'm not going to be like, oh, cricket's horrible. I don't like cricket.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that I don't have your capability of going, yeah, I don't want this book. I give more book. I give books a little bit more of a 3-issue run,
Right.
but right away that's not for you.
Yeah, I just think it's the concept of it. I feel like it's going to be, especially
You're not excited for issue 2.
if the narrative was straightforward. I think I would be more in rather than jumping in time, because I feel like the jumping in time is a device they're using just to use it rather than tell a story that needs to use that. You know what I meing? Like Memento uses that jumping narrative because that's part of the story. He doesn't remember anything. Whereas this felt like they're like, let's not make it straightforward. It's more artsy if we make it so it jumps a lower time. But then it's just confusing. That's how it felt to me anyway. So,
All right, final book of the evening we're going to review before our feature, obviously. We got Hawkeye number 15, written by Kelly Thompson with art by Leonardo Romero and colors by Jordi Belair.
Of course, she makes an appearance twice.
Alex, let me ask you a question about this book, because I did feel the last couple issues and then this one. The Hawkeye in this is really close to Matt Fraction. Like I really felt really close to that kind of run.
Yeah.
That is like and that's the thing about Kelly Thompson. I feel like Matt Fraction's Kate was good, but Kelly Thompson's Kate is amazing.
She embraced Kate.
It made her a fully realized character and made her also like, because I feel like in Matt Fraction she's really like super jokey, but there's never anything to make her seem how good she is.
Yeah.
Or make her seem like she has anything serious going on. And the Clint and Matt Fraction's book is amazing. So it's great to see that when he comes to this book, he's still amazing too. Mm-hmm. So now we have two.
This gets me excited for when this is done to go back and read the Aha Fraction run, because this is the first experience I've ever had with Katie or Kate as the Hawkeye role.
She said, "Don't call her Katie."
I know. Hey, they do in this book. So
she hates him.
It's true.
I think that, and this is probably going to make some people mad, the art in that run is great, but I think the storytelling and the writing in this run is way better than the Matt Fraction run. I think the Matt Fraction run is good, but there's moments in this comic, especially like when her mom gets brought back and she has that moment with her, that are more powerful and more greater like scenes than in the original run. I think the original run's a little too jokey all the time.
Well, there were moments that were good in the first run. When Girls dies, that had some stakes. You're not listening to me.
I didn't hear it.
Oh,
Let's not talk about it.
Well, I'm giving our listeners who probably have read it, because we've talked about good things about. I already spoiled it. You're not even listening to it.
The thing about me for that, and I won't say his name so that way he doesn't get spoiled, but that character felt like
You weren't even fucking listening.
like a joke character, and then he dies, and then it's kind of like, oh, I like that character, rather than being like, oh shit, he's dead. Like, feel bad for him. It's more of that. Where in this, like, when she brings back Kate and gets to apologize, and then she takes her away, you could think for a moment being like, man, she's gonna kill Clint because she wants to bring her mom back, and she says, no, I'm not gonna.
But there's a different. I mean, that other guy was just a character. Where but this is actually her mom.
But they're both catalysts. Like, this is supposed to be a catalyst to push Kate forward. In that story, it's a catalyst to make Hawkeye realize that it's not a joke anymore. These guys are serious. But I just feel like in that run, that character's set up from the beginning to like be a joke, and then there's really like, why? Obviously, Hawkeye cares because he's a civilian. But like, why would he care? Like, he's just some random guy. This is like, she's been setting this up for a longer time. I mean,
and I agree. This is a stronger run.
I'm not saying you're wrong. That's still great. We still love that run.
I'm not saying that run's shit.
I feel like this is like stronger on that, for at least for Kate even.
I think story-wise, this is a stronger book. I do think that Aha art is still a little better, but I may be biased. But I tell you what, Jordi Belair, she's kicking ass.
Kills it. Hawkeye's working together in this book. It's so smooth. Like, it never seemed like Clint was never in this book, but it still gives the like a character to Kate. Like, she is Hawkeye. And I love how he always introduces himself as like other Hawkeye or whatnot. But and yeah, the art's amazing. I mean, it makes you, when you read this, I was telling these guys, when you're done, it makes you sad. It's like, this is so good. And you see the cover of the last one where she's sitting on the bridge in LA, like, or whatever
Aren't they sitting on the dock or something?
Yeah, the dock. And it's like, man, why does this have to go? Yeah. It's too soon. Marvel, you don't know when you got it because this is just grade A material.
There are some hilarious moments when you were flipping through the pages. There's all these minions are still around, and they're all hanging out in I think it's Madame Mask's mansion.
Yeah, it's her house.
And they go, I don't want to fight those Hawkeyes anymore. If I see one more Hawkeye, I'm going to kill myself. That's not actually the line, but they show up and they go, I can't have my nose broken again. It was so good just watching them go through this pain and suffering that they've consistently had to go through this last 15 issues of just getting the shit kicked out of them repeatedly.
And then there's also the moment when Clint comes back to her apartment and says, "Oh, she has a bunch of sidekicks." It's kind of weird, and he goes right to the fridge and was like, "Ah, yes, frozen peas." And puts it on
I died.
And puts it on his
literally
ribs.
died.
Oh, holy!
That's not in this issue, but that was last issue.
I rarely laugh out loud, especially when I'm reading something. Usually I go, "Oh, that's good. That's a good bit," or I smile. And when I'm watching something, a lot of times too, even somebody will say something and I'll just smile and be like, that's pretty good. So very rarely do I laugh out loud. In this issue, when she calls for the driver, they call it here, like Uber or Lyft. And then at the end, she's like, "You better not give me a bad rating." And he gives him her half star. And she just goes, "No." Yeah. I laughed out loud. It's so set up well. The pacing for the joke is set up well. The panel itself, Leonardo Romero is great with setting up with that comedy, the facial expressions on her face because they treat that moment as important as other shit happening in her life. You know what I mean? Like that's as devastating to her as all the stuff that's happening. And it just makes it funny because that she's so upset about it. And but that's if she's a 20-year-old millennial and that's a big thing for her. Meanwhile, Hawkeye doesn't even know what the fuck a cell phone is.
Right.
And so that's what makes her different than him. But I did feel the same thing you did when I get to the last page and it says farewell. I'm just like, man, what's this? I don't understand why this book, it obviously doesn't feel like it's supposed to end. It's just the end of this arc, it feels like. Because we're never going to get the end of that Madame Mask, her dad and all that stuff with her mom. That stuff we're never going to get a conclusion to. And I feel like this is just ending so that another series can start. I bet you anything in 6 months they'll be announcing Hawkeye coming out again. And,
just in time for Infinity War.
But all it does is kick off the creative team that's doing awesome on this. And I feel like that's something old Marvel, they really haven't done it yet, and hopefully they don't do it here. So it's a speculation, but I feel like it's something they used to do, being like, man, this book is really great. People really do like it, but it's not selling enough. Let's end the book. And then they bring it back with a whole new creative team, never realizing maybe people liking it. It's selling so it's has a fan base because it's that creative team that's doing so great in the book. Like it happened with Captain Marvel 15 times. They were doing so great, and then they would end the book, and they'd be coming back with hey, we got new writers, and the people be like, but why? Just keep it going. I think that's mainly what people were getting upset about in the past is that this team is doing great. Obviously, you hear that it's doing great. Yeah, maybe it's not selling well, but you stopping and starting it's not going to make it sell well again. I don't know. Maybe it just won't come back. But
I think I'm at that point now. I'm just hoping that they can give Hawkeye a rest then.
Yeah.
Don't redo it again, because Hawkeye's come out 4 times. Matt Fraction, Jeff Lemire, this one, so 3, at least 3 in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
that they've never stuck to anything. The only one that seems like a story that held itself together was the Matt Fraction one. This one could easily surpass it. There's things that they carry on from the AHA run, like where Clint has to have hearing aids.
Yeah. And I feel that Matt Fraction run lasted for so long because that one did so well, I think. And then I believe maybe they wanted to end the book, and they brought it back to Jeff Lemire, and then they just ended it because that's what they were doing at the time. They would do 12 issues, 6 issues, and then end it. Yeah. And then we got this. So, I mean, I doubt they're going to sit on this, like you said. It's Hawkeye. It's one of the people from their movies. They're obviously going to bring Clint back and get his own book. But I do feel like at least the silver lining here is that we found Kelly Thompson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That she's a great writer. She was signed with Marvel exclusively last month, I believe. And she's doing Rogue and Gambit, which actually I read and I really do enjoy. It actually reminds me a little bit of this. Not really, totally. It does feel different. The characters really do feel like themselves in that book, but the humor she kind of brings gets a little bit in that book too. And so I think that might be the silver lining to be well, I mean, this book is ending, which is not great, but at least now I know that Kelly Thompson, like she made her name with this book. They signed her exclusively. So obviously they know it's good. The book's ending for what reason? Probably financially. That's probably the only reason. And maybe she can go do other stuff. Jessica Jones, maybe. So we'll see.
That would be awesome.
But
not only her, Romero, like whatever book Romero does next, I'm getting it. I don't care. Like it could be
Innocentes.
It could be Shitman, and I'd get Shitman #1. So
this was also a 10 for me.
10,
Yes.
absolutely.
And making me sad for, like I said, that finale. So we'll see.
That finale, I mean, hopefully it's going to be good. I bet it will be, just because, but you're going to tell. It's kind of like when Grant Morrison was leaving Action Comics. It's like you got to wrap all this stuff in a bow and before I'm done.
If you are somebody, what do you say?
My hope is that it's good. My hope is that
The finale?
that they at least have time to fix it to be an ending. I hope it doesn't get, the rug pulled out from under them. And I realize they've known about it for a while. But there's also the thought that they planned on going for 20 more issues, that their end game wasn't to wrap this up nicely. There's going to be some shit that hits the fan. The book is going to lead on to something else. Now, I hope that it doesn't feel rushed, or at least it has this. I get it. It probably still will feel rushed, but I hope it's rushed to an extent where it's like, at least I'm satisfied with what I got.
I think maybe we get a conclusion. Obviously, that's not intended, but it will be like, it'll be more like a character conclusion rather than a story plotline conclusion. So it'll probably be, like Kate coming to some realization or coming to some sort of peace, probably with her mother. And then that'll be the end of that book. So we'll see.
Kicking her dad in the balls.
Something I was going to say was that if you are somebody who does wait and doesn't actually buy 16 issues of this, that's probably like, 2-3 trades?
Yeah.
Go ahead and pick those up. Good story. The whole thing's been great. So, Hawkeye. Well, next, let's talk about, we talked about Tom King earlier, so let's talk about Swamp Thing. Supercon 2018, Return of the Con, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. Tickets on sale at supercon.com. Alex, we're going to be there doing a show, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to be there on the 28th doing a live show for everyone. What's it going to be called? Wednesday Comics After Dark.
And not only us are going to be there, a lot of people are going to be there. Phil Hester, right, Garrett?
Yes, Phil Hester, the current artist of Batman Beyond. He's done other projects like Shipwreck. He's done some Swamp Thing that you may or may not have seen, and some Holland Files that came out recently.
Not only Phil, signed Steve, Shea Fontana, Tony Fleece, Travis Nye, Midwest All Pro doing a show the 28th. They'll be doing a show that night. That's the main attraction that night. Jill Thompson, Ryan Cody, John Allen, and more. Tom Wynn. Going to be at supercon.com. Make sure there's a lot going on that weekend. I would say, if I am going to tell you any kind of advice, buy that weekend pass. You won't regret it. You got MAP concert that night also. You got Wednesday Comics After Dark. And then you got a whole weekend of stuff to do, people to see. Supercon.com for more information.
Nice segue.
Swamp Thing Winter Special #1, written by Tom King, art by Jason Fabak. Is it Fabak or Fabuk?
I think it's Fabok.
Fabak, that's right.
Fabok.
Also a backup by Len. So how do you say Len's last name? Is it Wen?
Ween.
Mm-hmm. Len Ween, and art by Kelly Jones. No words.
No, flip that. Stories by Kelly Jones.
No, it isn't.
No.
Oh, really?
They are.
I thought she was writing a script for Len to draw.
No, it was his last script that she was drawing.
Yeah.
Oh, I must have read that wrong. All right, we'll get there.
First story by Tom King. Speaking of Tom King, it's a story where Swamp Thing is running through the snow. The kid on his back. They're running from the snow monster. Here's the thing I want to talk about Tom King before we actually get into the actual story. It begins with a story, or like you can hear commentary of a football, like Monday afterwards. They're talking about a football game and how this guy did bad in it. In a Batman story that came out this week, same thing happens. There's some commentary about a football game.
Interesting.
And in the button, there's commentary about a hockey game. And I think a Tom King thing is to take something totally unrelated to the story that's actually happening, overlay it, and be like, look how similar these two things are.
Right.
But it's always sports. He's never came off as a sports guy to me by following him on Twitter, so I'm not sure where it's coming from. Jason did the story for Batman. And
isn't he Canadian? Like, isn't he really big?
He's Canadian, and he's a big sports guy. I just remember that he talked about that. So it's weird that He did the same thing here. He did it in the button too. Like as like Batman was getting beat up in the button, in the background, they were talking about how that guy got injured in the hockey game and was like dying on the thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's like, oh, this guy is like commentary on this guy dying, but also commentary on Batman's getting beat the shit out of too. And that's the same thing that happens here. It's like commentary on how this guy's saying, the monster took me, and that's what's happening in the story.
Yeah.
And I find it very weird that like that's a narrative that he uses a lot to be like, see how much real life is like people fight their monsters on the football field too. They're fighting Swamp Thing's fighting a monster in this snowstorm. Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up because I noticed that in a lot of his stories.
Well, and I thought that device in this story too is kind of funny. Like, I don't know, he's a monster, but he's just like a football player, and he's just like you. Like, I thought that was a little thin, but
that's the only part of the story that was like, I don't think you could cut that out. Like, have it open silent and end silent.
Well, so I read this when it first came out, and I've been digesting it and rereading it and all this stuff, and I think that he's trying to make it just extremely layered and. I'm just going to assume that every little thing means something, because it's bookended. This Tom King story is bookended with this kind of picturesque swamp. A leaf falls and the radio is on, kind of this radio narrative backdrop thing. And then at the end, that's how it ends as well. There's this radio backdrop. It ends with this picturesque swamp.
Yeah. The snow melts. Yeah. It turns into a swamp.
But everything in between, it's a little unclear. Is this real time? Is it a deep introspective dream? Because it's bookend, it would make you think that this happened within the time span of the radio show. Because if not,
you're right.
Why else was the radio
interview
show?
It's probably like 5-10 minutes.
Exactly.
It's really a 5 to 10 minutes.
So I've been having a tough time wrapping.
I didn't even think of that.
So I've been trying to understand, like,
that's what I'm saying.
Was that intentional, or is he just saying, "Hey, this is a plot device I'm starting it with.
Yeah,
I don't care what the time frame is. This is how I'm ending it."
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying about this kind of device. Is like it made sense in the button to show also like it happens in this 1 minute time frame.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When he did it also in Batman this week, it's kind of like and like you're saying here. All it does is set a timestamp for this story. And a lot of stuff happens. You're telling me really this happens in 5 minutes? Or somebody, I don't know where this radio signal's coming from.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about this story. I'm not sure. Let's just quickly around the table. Did you enjoy the story?
I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I thought, I don't know much about Swamp Thing, the character. I've been learning more from like Holland Files and things like that. But, from what I understood of it, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was one of the best Swamp Things I've read.
Alex?
I think it looked the best. I really did enjoy it. Didn't get so in depth on everything,
which is radio show.
It never even occurred to me. I just blew by. I was like, oh, there's a leaf falling.
I've got more stuff to bring up.
It may be autumn, and then when he's being reborn, it's spring. But I thought it was really great.
No, I know that makes sense if you don't have the radio in the background telling you.
Yeah,
like it's the same interview. So did they really like do half an interview? Like, we'll be back next season,
right,
to finish this interview.
Well, maybe time was frozen when there was like snow. So like how the swamp fades away and it comes back. So maybe during that time stops.
Well, I guess you really can't believe in the story we find out this kid.
It's the only thing to make fucking sense. So you can't.
By the way, how many people saw that kid being the monster coming?
Yeah, it was pretty.
I literally, when the kid was on his back, he's like, "We're running away. Don't you remember?" I was like, "Oh fuck, that kid's the monster."
Well, and also I immediately was like, "That kid is already dead." Like it just keeps saying later, and then you see there's snow piled up on his shoulders. Anyone who is alive would just be like, "We need to like stop and brush off."
He never was shivering. Yeah, he was never shivering or anything.
Yeah.
He never ate. Like, what does he eat? He ate berries one time. That's what I thought when he gave him the berries. I was like, yeah, that guy. There's no way that guy's real because he's eating berries. And he's like, I'm good.
What kind of first let me notice it is his hat. They kept leaving the hat behind like 3 or 4 times.
I didn't notice that.
I went back and looked. He kept walking away from the hat and like
all of a sudden he would have it.
And then he would have it in like the next day or whatever.
That's what at first I thought there was a lot of continuity errors like that, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm pretty sure like this is like you said. Is it in his head or is this like not really? I guess it wasn't really happening. Maybe Swamp Thing was just seriously going like 3 yards back to like he would go and then die and like fall down and then the next day the same thing.
Yeah, there is a lot of confusion with it. Like I enjoyed the story, but there's I don't know. It's not super moving.
I enjoyed it. The art was great, like you guys said. Jason did a great job. But there's a lot there, like you were saying, John, that a lot of it is like meant to be deep, but I thought it was very surface level. When he kills the bear, when he kills the kid, and when he's killed something else too, right?
The hillbilly cannibal.
Oh yeah, he says that same line. "I'm bringing back to the earth," which the first time is fine, but it's a Tom King thing to repeat stuff like you said. So he does it 3 different times,
and it felt like that line should have been more poignant with how everything ended.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously very clear that like that phrase that keeps getting repeated, that's basically what Swamp Thing needs to do. Take this alternate path, you know?
And I believe, this is what I was going to ask you a point on Swamp Thing, because for to believe Scott Snyder's run, which it was World and, Avatar the Green, Avatar the Red, there was a lot of like Swamp Thing only caring about plants. Like he didn't care about living animals at all in that kind of story. There's a lot of him being like, "Oh no, make sure you don't kill the plants. All the humans can die. I can't really care." Yeah. And then this one, he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll find you and I'll save you. I'll save your soul, basically."
Right.
And I was like, I think Swamp Thing like would be like, "Oh, it's all right. You turn to compost. You make some plants. It's good."
Well, and also one guy's trying to kill him. There's no need to lead that guy home. You know.
And then the monster obviously was just a monster. Like, why are you trying to make this like? Obviously, I think the kid he did exist at one point, but it's like the thing. He mimicked him and he became the kid. So he's killing the kid and like apologizing, be like, "I know," like, and I'm like, but he's the monster. Mm-hmm. It's like in the thing, like he hasn't changed into somebody else and you're being like, "Oh, sorry. Like, are you a really good friend to me?" No, at that point, he's the monster. So like, what are you doing?
But he got attached to the kid. It's like if this wasn't Garrett, this was the Thing Garrett, but we've been hanging out with the Thing Garrett forever.
If you knew that Garrett died and you knew that he was fully an alien and you shot him, you wouldn't hold his body and be like, "Man, sorry, man." You would find his dead body and be like, "Hey."
So you're saying Swamp Thing knows that the kid's dead? That the real kid is
He says
gone.
in there, he goes, "I know, like, that we met," and he's basically saying goodbye to him, but he's saying goodbye to the other person. But he does it to the monster.
Oh.
So at that point,
so he already knows he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's just talking.
I know you're the monster.
You're right. Just blow his brains out.
So it's like, maybe, like he said to the bear and he said to the guy, kill the monster, then go find this kid's soul and like make it right, like he said he was going to do, rather than doing it to the monster. I think maybe that would have been a better ending.
Some of the things that confused me were, so at the beginning, this child is introduced, and it's obviously like, that image of the kid or whoever that kid is coming from somewhere Swamp Thing, like maybe he was a real kid at some point, because Tom King takes the time to say that the kid, his dad, mother, and sister were standing like on the banks of the swamp and they were looking at a frog or something. The kid is the only one who saw Swamp Thing. The kid got spooked and he took off. So it just leads to me to believe, like, is that the truth of the story? Like maybe the kid died in the swamp, which makes total sense because you're in a swamp. Yeah. And maybe Swamp Thing went after the kid to try to help him. So during this whole, I think it's just like a fever dream almost. I think he's kind of like hibernating, because at the very end, the kid was never there, because when all the ice melts off, there's no bones, there's no decay. Body, yeah. So I feel like Swamp Thing never really went anywhere at all. It was just this dream, because they say, so he basically, they say that the swamp, like the winter came, the snow came in to the swamp, and all of a sudden he's in this like snow land. Well, when he's walking, there's mountains. It looks like he's in Alaska, Canada, or Montana, something like that. None of that exists in swamp area because it's all flat.
Yeah.
So
I found that a little weird too.
And then at the end, he reconstitutes himself and he's in the swamp. So it couldn't have been.
It had to be, because then that would make sense with the theory with the radio show being so short. So maybe it's just mine. He's like tormenting him, but that's how much Swamp Thing's like in tune with like everything going on around him.
But also,
he, like, loses it.
Is Swamp Thing picking up radio signals versus radio?
Exactly.
Like, it made sense in that Button story because Batman was watching the hockey game. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that's why, again, people, I don't hate Tom King. But so with the whole father issue, with the Brave and the Mold issue, that came up out of kind of nowhere. Is he just pulling these narrative devices?
Well, I think there's a lot of him, that he knows, like, I like doing that device a lot. Put in the story.
Maybe that part of the swamp's near a bar or something.
It could be a fisherman with a radio in the back of his.
By the way, this is the part I was talking about that makes me think that this kid he knew before, and that now it's just a monster. He says, "I don't remember it all, but I remember. I remember, boy, you were caring for you deeply. You make me feel I am good." And so he's like, "I think I remember caring for you one time, but it's not, like you said, it's not actually the boy. It's actually just Winter. So maybe it is a dream." Here's the thing, though. I feel like this story is better, and I don't mean to pick apart Tom King's storytelling after the fact, Monday morning quarterback. But I think if the story is better if the kid's real. if the kid is actually somebody he's trying to save and he can't do it.
I agree.
And I think when he gets to a point where he's like, because there's a point where he talks about in the winter, everybody's out for themselves. That Hunter talks about it. He's like, I'm sorry. That's what the winter does. Like, you're out for yourself. I need to kill you to survive. If he gets to a point in that part, instead of saying you're the monster, when he gets to a point, he's like, I can't save you. And he tells the kid, I'm sorry, but like, in order for me to live, I had to let you go. And like, that's how the story ends. And then he says his fucking line. Yeah. I'm sorry I have to do this to you, but I'll find you one day.
That's why I wasn't sad.
That's a better story.
I wasn't sad at all at the end of the story. Like, a lot of people are like, that was heartbreaking. It's like, but he addressed that he wasn't real.
He's and
now he's saying he's going to kill him. I'm already checked out because I'm like, wow, that's weird. I wonder what Swamp Thing's thinking rather than he's not alive.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, fuck, this is going to be a real kid. Yeah. He's going to be like, I can't save you. I know I want to be a hero. That's the whole story. Am I good? Am I a hero? Or am I not? Am I a monster or am I a hero? Yeah. And at the end, he's like, why to kill this monster? Yeah. So, but if it's better if it's at the end and it's a real kid and he's like, am I a monster or am I a hero? I have to leave you behind. Maybe I am a little bit of a monster. Yeah. But I'll save you one day. I'll be the hero.
Yeah.
But it won't be now. Like that, I think that's a better story. I'm giving myself chills here.
Yeah. But and it's also this like really romantic gesture that like Swamp Thing will go back and return that bear to its whatever essence. That crazy hillbilly, he'll do the same. But now it's not real, so you're like, I mean, that's not emotion. I don't know. Like, you lose that.
But it makes sense for Swamp Thing, right? He goes back, he knows they're going to become part of the earth, and he'll go and find them and save them. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes more sense rather than being like, oh, you're actually a monster. And it's like, so then like, it comes to that point when you're like, yes, I cared about this kid, but at the end of the day, he's not real. Mm-hmm. It's just like a dream then.
You know what really got me too is
I hate dream story. By the way, any kind of story that has a dream, I hate it.
So another thing that really didn't quite sit that well was, so they have that one panel that was trying to be really poignant where the panel goes red, Swamp Thing is holding this kid to his chest, and you see the action word, and it's almost like as if he just broke the kid's neck, right? It's like, or something. Right. It's like this KSST or something like that. But again, I don't care that the kid's neck was broke because he doesn't even exist. No. So that panel, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just,
there's a lot. I mean, it feels like there's a good story here, but at the end, that's good story sacrificed for a plot twist. It's sacrificed for a shocking moment, a 2-page splash to be like, you're the monster. Because I feel like Tom King thought he needed to be like, gotcha. And it's like, I don't need a gotcha. Mm-hmm. Like, all I need you to do, the gotcha is going to be when you're asking me, like, if this guy's a monster or not, he proves maybe he had, like, it's not really, like, that's also a moment when you're reflecting, like, is he a monster? Mm-hmm. Like, if I was out there, I knew it was me or him, but I know one day I can save him. Mm-hmm. Maybe I leave him behind because that's the best thing to do rather than kill both of us and then nobody gets saved. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the best thing to do. Like I said, this story wasn't horrible. Mm-hmm. It was good. I thought it was good. But I feel like at the end, it kind of lost me because at the end, like the kid's not real. Mm-hmm. So like, it's like, and then like you said, is anything real? Was it just a dream? And then you get to that point, and that's the reason why, like, any kind of fever dream or dream in a story, at the end, you're kind of just like, what's the point of that in the story? Because none of it's real. Mm-hmm. So like, nothing actually happened. Yes, maybe in their mind they came to a realization, but I think there's a better way to do that. Like at the end, he goes, when he says, I did care for you, I think maybe I am good because at one point I did care for you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, but like, the kid's dead. Like,
yeah.
Well, I have a question. So do you ever think that kid is like Alec Holland?
I thought of that
That's
too.
what I was thinking. I'm like, if that's kind of like a metaphor for he's Alec Holland.
Because it has to manifest from somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, I care for you, but I have being the avatar of the green, like, I need to do this. Mm-hmm. I can't do those things. Like, I can't focus on you. I need to be for everyone, for everything.
I do think there's this underlying thing of, so Swamp Thing encounters nature, the weather elements, right? And it's brutal and it beats him down. He encounters an animal. It's brutal. He has to beat it down. He encounters a psycho hillbilly cannibal, which I still don't understand how that character works into this story. Mm-mm. That's just very odd to me. Anyway,
how's he still alive?
Right. So humans are this terrible thing so outside of the plant world, it's like he's experiencing all these terrible things. Yeah. But that doesn't come home at the end. No, that doesn't, you know what I mean?
Those are just elements to stop the story. But like, the thing with that, and the thing I think that Tom King usually repeats himself, is like, the bear thing happens, the hillbilly thing happens, so that way the kid thing can happen. Everything happens in threes. Mm-hmm. But in this story, those two things happen and there's no payoff to those things. Like he says the line twice. And that way, when you get to the third part, you know it's coming. And you know, being like, he's going to say this to the kid. And that's the twist. That's the heartbreaking moment, being like, he's going to leave this kid behind and he'll say the same thing to him. And you'll be like, fuck, like he is going to go back for them. Like that, like you said, that's the point when you're like, he is going to, he didn't lie to the bear. He didn't lie to that hillbilly. Right. He actually is what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's still a monster, but he still is a good person.
He's gonna, good thing. When he can help you, he's going to help you. He just can't right now. And I think that's a better story. By the way, I'm looking at this last page. Speaking of that radio narrative, what a way to like take a whole story and if there's any kind of subtlety to the story, you're just like you put that narrative in, and you're like the only monster out there is you. Yeah. Anyways, hell of a game. It ends in a point when you're like, I'm thinking I'm supposed to be reflecting right now, but you're telling me now, so I'm thinking about football, and I don't know what's going on here.
And if you go back to the old classic Swamp Thing stories, it always ends Swamp Thing trudges off into the sunset alone. But it's like minimal stuff like, if tears could fall, they would. And you're like, oh, wow. You know, even though it's cheesy, but the radio thing, like, hell of a game. It's like, whoa.
Can you imagine? Those are just silent panels. He walks onto the swamp and you just see him become part of the swamp. Yeah. And that way that's a subtlety. Be like, oh, did he just become part of the swamp to regain powers? Or is he going to go get them? Like, is he going to go honor his commitment and be like, I'm going to go find them now?
See, that's what I thought too. I don't like the text. There was too much text for that ending. Like, that didn't work. I like it would have been more magical, or more, mythical if he did go back in the swamp and that's the last thing you see. And then you just see the swamp. That's just like the last thing there.
Good. Yeah. Good. But I know a lot of people, like we were talking about.
I think good is almost too high quality. It's like
no, the art was good,
fine.
The art was amazing.
It's great until that moment.
Fabok made that story absolutely amazing. I thought with some of the devices he used.
I mean, this cover even is just amazing.
Yeah, up until that moment, it's good. Like if all you have to do is change it to that kit. By the way, you might be able to change it for the trade.
Well, I was say that's what's going to happen now. There's going to be too much complaining about what happened. He's going to go,
up until that moment, if that 2-page spread, he's like, I figured out that I can't. What does he say? I can't carry you anymore. Yeah, I can't because he goes, I cannot carry you anymore. I don't understand. Are you okay? Say you're okay. He says, I cannot because you. And then he says, you're the monster. Instead of that, be like, I don't understand. Are you okay? And he goes, I can't carry you anymore because if I do, then I'll die too. And then he has to explain to the kid the same thing. But then he ends up killing the kid because he's not going to leave him out there to freeze.
Suffer. Yeah.
But he's like, I got to do this. And so that's a moment when he has to kill a kid. Yeah. And be a monster to one day be a hero and find him and save him.
And then draw in the bones at the end.
Like it's so, and I think it's not that like me and John here are like some savants or something. I'm pretty sure it's obvious. And I thought that's the way it was going. But I don't know what happened. Like it seems like just something to be like, oh, a twist, like to have a snow monster. Yeah. There doesn't even need to be a monster. Just have the kid.
Or actually have it be a snow monster.
Have it be some freak snowstorm in a swamp. The kid runs away from his family because he sees the swamp thing. And then now you get the snowstorm, and he gets to that point, kills the kid, and he kind of collapses. And then the storm passes, and he comes back to life. Like I don't know. That's the thing. Like I said, with the narrative at the beginning and end, it's kind of like, here's what the story's about. And when he says you're the monster, it's just it seems a little too on the nose for Tom King. He's usually a little bit more subtle, I think. Anyways, so that's why when I read this, I was like, all the way up to that point, I was like, man, this is pretty great. That art's great. I can see where this is going. And then it got to the point, I was like, okay, it seems like some not even great Twilight Zone episode to be like, the kid was the monster all along.
Yeah, totally.
For what?
Oh, shoot. And now that we can break it down more, you're right. I mean, you guys are absolutely right.
No, I mean, you can like it. That's what I said. That's what I said. You can like it. I'm sure we'll be attacked again from these Tom King fans. But it's like, it just seems weird that it was going that way with the bear, with the guy, and then it never comes back around. It somehow ends, I think, in a way to show a Swamp Thing in a super great light, to be like, oh, it's a monster, he's going to kill the monster, rather than be like that ambiguous, being like, maybe he is. Like, and I think that's a lot what makes Alan Moore's Swamp Thing great, is like he's not always he's not always, you don't ever know if he's a hero, like stuff like that. Especially like when he goes against like Batman and Gotham in that one story, it's like, he's doing a lot of things great for like the planet and stuff like that for himself.
But
and
he's
like,
destroying Gotham.
He's destroying Gotham. Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's not that Batman comes after him. It's like, he's not at that point, you're like, is he a hero? Like, I mean, he has a good mindset. He's doing what he thinks he needs to do. And I think that's what makes Swamp Thing such a great character, that he is that person. Even in Scott Snyder's and Charles Soule thing, dude wasn't always like, I mean, like I said, sometimes he was like, humans can die, like whatever, like the planet, like the green needs to survive. Like these people are killing the planet. And I think that's, I mean, I'm not sure, but believe that's where Swamp Thing's great, is like he lives as like this kind of like monster, but he'll do what's great for the planet and do what's great for like him and stuff like that. But he's not the superhero. And so that's what I found disappointing, but I thought it was good.
Yeah. One thing I do love, my favorite stories are the Swamp Thing stories that are introspective. So this totally strikes a chord with that. So like, I don't know. I don't get hung up on a lot of the details as much, but I don't know. It certainly does present plenty of questions.
Right.
Yes. Everyone is going to think the show hates stuff, because that's all I've heard is I mean, I get that we're breaking it. Well, you guys are pretty much breaking it. I've been pretty quiet just listening to you guys talk. Listen to the sultry voices happen. My only actual complaint would be the bear would never have come out of the cave. If it's the dead of winter.
Oh my God.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, this is true also, but
So the bear would be hibernating.
Yeah, and just because we're
Hatred, that's all I'm hearing.
We're analyzing the book. We're not picking it apart. That should be the takeaway.
Yeah, that's the takeaway. Well, I mean, like, if you hear what we're saying, it's not that it's like bad because it didn't do this. It's that it felt like it was setting this up, and then at the last second it was like, well, let's
Dump
not
the
do
ball.
that.
It had more potential than what we got.
Either felt like Tom King at the end was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that, or some editor was like, maybe change that ending. That's what it feels like. And I think we've had that before with the Tom King story. I think we've talked about it on this show before, where it felt like it was going somewhere, and at the end he was like, he changed it last second, and was it Tom King or Scott? One of the two.
I think Tom King.
Could be either or. I don't remember. I don't know what book you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I just remember complaining about it on the show. Not complaining, analyzing.
Maybe Batman re-breaking his back so it's fixed.
Yeah, that does
That
bug
kind
me.
of thing. Yeah.
Marvin thought that was perfect.
Right.
I thought it was
break
good,
his
though.
back and have him walk away like nothing happened.
Here's the thing. Forget about all that. It's a nice little, like, if you like Twilight Zone, it's a nice little thing like that. But,
Absolutely.
art's great. That's also a plus. And like I said, 3/4 of it's great. It just, for some reason, the ending seems like it doesn't go with the rest of the story. So, and then after that, we get Len's final story on Swamp Thing. We get a little 2-page from the editor where she talks about. I love hearing about how he had that piano tucked in the corner, like his life, and how this came out. And there was going to be a new series, but obviously he unfortunately passed away, and they didn't get a chance to letter it. And so all it is Kelly Jones's art and his story. And so we kind of, in a way, get a silent story of Swamp Thing. And Bamman's in it, Grundy's in it,
Matt Cable's in it.
And I read that last story, and I actually kind of enjoyed it as a silent issue, maybe because I read that first part was a lot of narrative at the beginning and ends. But I did like that it was kind of silent. And the thing about the takeaway for me for that last story, anyways, and I wonder if anybody else felt this way, was I kind of felt sad that I'm never going to see that finished, and you're never going to see more to that.
Yeah, they opened a huge can of worms with that. Of really cool characters. Solomon Grundy's one of my favorites, obviously Swamp Thing. And then seeing Batman. Kelly Jones' Batman is one of my favorites. Well, besides Bernie Wrightson's.
I love the way he draws Swamp Thing, too. Like you said, there's a way where Scott was drawing him with wings and stuff like that. There's a way with the way even Fabok draws him in this issue. But that Swamp Thing, like the kind of smooth look to him, slimy kind of look. I do like that because that's more like the monster.
Yeah, I love that. For instance, when Swamp Thing shows up in Matt Cable's hospital room, so there's like one angle where you're like, oh yeah, he looks like a together monster, and then the next one, all you see is like his upper teeth, but no jaw or anything. You're like, oh my god!
Like he splits apart.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah, exactly. Me too, because it just reminds you every panel. This guy's organic.
Yeah,
like nothing is sitting still.
I think we got a lot of that with Snyder's. It was a lot like this buff kind of like Swamp Thing, with
like
the
the
wings.
Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, and then I think that's kind of actually how Fabok kind of draws them. But if I'm not sure who did Soul's run, but I think there's a lot more of that in there where it was like Swamp Thing showing up in a flower. Yeah, Swamp Thing would show up like in a cactus.
I know. Like was it Jesus Sayas did a bunch?
Yeah, he did too. God, yeah, that's good. But like in this story, like you said, like they love doing that monster, and I do like it. That monster, like make him a monster. He doesn't have to look like this buff guy. Like he shapes himself So he doesn't need to be buff because he's strong.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why is he making artificial muscles on
Right.
himself? So he's just this monster. He shows up. He doesn't care how the fight looks because he could have a jaw. He could be like his flower. Like, yeah, I always love that about Charles Soule's run and Alan Moore especially too.
Like you got to think like, so Swamp Thing, he looks the way he does because he's the way he thinks he looks, he's going to look, right? So whenever I see him like all buff and like a solid superhero looking thing, and I'm just like, this guy is now an asshole. Like he truly, he thinks he looks like the Incredible Hulk, which is horseshit. Like
that's exactly the issue I have with it. Because there's sometimes he shows up and he's like super skinny. And he doesn't care because like, you know, he's going to bring up the earth and like smash you with it, or he can make his hand into like a trunk of a tree. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
So like, that's why in Faybox, when he's like all shriveled up at the end, I was like, that actually looks better than the thing you were drawing before. So why wasn't he like that?
It looks so cool.
Yeah, I do like that monster kind of look. So that you were talking about before, this editor notes, was it supposed to be like a miniseries or ongoing?
I think this is the start of the ongoing, is what.
Yeah, it was going to turn into an ongoing ongoing series, hopefully. But usually, with how they try to get everything off the ground, they start with the 6 issues and then see how it went. Well, the first 6 issues of that Len Wein Kelly Jones did really well. So this was going to be the reboot. In fact, for the Holland Files 2 issue, I was supposed to interview Kelly Jones, but it didn't work out. And when I asked him to, this was probably a year and a half ago. He said that. They were finishing, the Swamp Thing miniseries, and because it's been doing well, they have plans to do more. But Kelly was like, "Do not say anything because it's we haven't even started it yet." Well, and then of course Len fell down. I don't know if he broke his hip or he hit his head, but one of the two. But then everything kind of was on pause from there.
Well, it says that they didn't say if it's an ongoing, but it says both the first of a new series and continuation of his miniseries, Swamp Thing: The Dead Don't Sleep, which was the last one with the cable.
And then in the script that Len wrote, the very first sentence to Kelly was something like, "All right, here we go. Let's hope this makes us famous. This will be the start of something really huge," or something like that.
Both rich and famous.
Yeah. So I don't know. It sounds like their intentions were to do something really well, and also to introduce that many characters and not go gangbusters on a holy moly.
That's the thing. If you go back to Scott and Charles's run, they really didn't really mix that much. Animal Man, but like that's it. So when I saw those two, I was like, oh, this was going to be in like DC proper, and like they're going to include people that like he's obviously interacted with before. And they're going to actually try to bring it back to be like the Swamp Thing from before.
And how about Solomon Grundy in this story?
They're going to retcon his origin a little bit. Well, not his origin, but like the fact that Cedric Gold is who Solomon Grundy is, like has a daughter.
Yeah, and also when they depict Grundy in the story, there's that one part where he sticks his finger out and the little baby touches it and it turns to ash, right? And then it comes right back. It's like, what Grundy's that?
Right.
Oh, man.
It was cool.
A lot of it's cool. What do you think, Alex?
Of what, that second half?
The second half.
It was good. It wasn't my cup of tea. I have to be fair. I like I get that he doesn't need to make him look muscular, but that's always the one I've always seen. So to see this behemoth of a plant thing just walking around, it's like, dude, your head is so tiny and your body is so huge. But then you get to other, so this page that Garrett's looking at right now, he's got this tiny baby head to this ginormous body. And then near the end of the issue, he actually does even out more. So it is kind of nice that I understand your guys' idea of he makes himself look like how he wants to look. And I tell you what, those are some fucked up where he's that weird planty thing coming out. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That could give you nightmares.
Kelly Jones is so good at deconstructing Swamp Thing where you almost think you're seeing like an intestine or something. Like, that is gross.
Question I was going to ask, actually, and Alex reminded me by saying that. So where are we now? Is he actually Alec, or is he a monster that thinks that he is Alec?
Man, based on Rebirth, I have no earthly idea.
Because, he was just a monster.
52, he had to return. He was human who had to return. I don't, man.
I don't remember where we landed on that.
The New 52, we're still waiting for the results of New 52, right? Because of the whole watch Doomsday Clock, right? Aren't they supposed to explain how New 52 wasn't actually a thing?
Yeah.
I know they promised that like 2 years ago. We still haven't seen crap, but
in 2 more years.
Yeah. So I think right now, what I think the character is going to do is I think people are just going to throw their hands up and be like, it's a wash. Like I can't, like how Len wrote the script for this new one. He's like, Swamp Thing's in Homa, Matt Cable's still alive. Abby is still alive as well because we saw her in issue 6 of the last Swamp Thing miniseries. I think Len was just trying to like reset the clock.
That's what I was gonna say. You would have thought that he was the one to be like, let's set this straight where we're gonna go.
Well, and Len is the one who set it straight when he and Bernie had departed from the very first series. I can't recall if it was series 2. I think it was early on. Len was the editor at DC and for the Swamp Thing series 2 title. And in one of the letters pages, someone said, "What's the deal with the continuity from series 1?" And Len just says, like, after issue 14, I don't even care. Didn't exist. You can burn them if you want. And it's like, holy crap, dude.
To clarify that anyone doesn't know, maybe I guess you guys wouldn't know either. So Alec goes into the swamp to become Swamp Thing, and then for the longest time you think that, like Alex turned into Swamp Thing, but then you realize that like the monster is just has his memories, right? And he's not actually Alex actually died.
Right.
And he's just a monster that thinks he is him, which is pretty great of a story.
Well, and the way Moore describes it too is brilliant because it's been studied and I think it's questionable, but still. So he introduced plumeria worms, where plumeria are these tiny little worms that apparently can hold memories. So they would take these plumeria worms in tests and put them in a maze. So they'd have to get to point A to point B. Once a plumeria worm learned to do that, they cut them in half. And the tail was able to complete the exact same obstacle course as the head. So that's what Moore introduced into this pseudoscience of like the essence and the memories and everything are in there because of the organic material and these worms.
And then later on in New 52, they were like, oh no, it is Alex.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
He's a lumberjack.
He's a lumberjack. So like I said, it seems like every writer likes to be like, oh, let me leave my stamp on this. And it just makes it more confusing. You're never going to see that happen with Batman.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Swamp Thing, they're like, let me change this. So I never figured out like if he's actually just a monster or if he's Alec. I think actually at the beginning of the Tom King story, there was something he brought up that made me think that. I think he actually says his name, Alec, or something like that. So I was like, are you?
He always kind of still goes by Alec for the most part in all the series.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing that really destroys the illusion of that any human is inside that is every time he gets broken up or destroyed, there's no bones. There's,
When you watch him get sucked into that fan from the...
How cool is that?
Holy shit.
And then when you think about it, actually, and it's a good part of the story, if he isn't Alec, is that if he has all the memories... What makes him not Alec? Is it just the flesh and bones, or is it like if you think about it, like the memories could be his soul? Like what is it? Does Swamp Thing have a soul? Is he actually Alec because he knows he is, or does it have to be like the actual person? And I think a lot of that goes to like Frankenstein and stuff like that. When they bring up Frankenstein's monster, it's like, oh, is he a real person, or is he just whoever the parts he is of that person? So that brings a good part of this. That's when they went back to be like, oh, he is Alec. It's like, okay, so now. Like, just make him the monster who thinks he is.
Yeah.
So I want to see, obviously, like I said, reading that last part made me a little sad being like, I knew that was going to happen and now it's not going to happen anymore. Do you think they do an ongoing? And if they do an ongoing, it's going to be a very touchy subject to be like, who takes this?
Well, there's been hints because, what's his name? Greg Capullo
wants to
has
draw.
been drawing it, and he said that's what he's doing next. Someone I know went to a con, and he said that's what he's going to do next. But I mean, you guys know everything's in flux. Like nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah, I did see somebody ask us on Twitter, who's going to be your writer? He said, obviously, I love working with Scott. But it's like, Scott already did it.
I hope Snyder doesn't return.
That's what I mean.
I think Snyder's fine, but like...
But why?
That ship sailed. Like, they need someone who's more introspective and, I don't know, take the character back to Homa and, like, figure out what the hell he's doing now. That's interesting stuff. A Day in the Life of Superman is pretty damn interesting. Same type thing.
I think I would like to see Jeff Lemire. I think he'd be a good character writer for it. I know Marvin. Brain's exploding.
I know it is, because for some reason, that's a good choice. I mean, he is doing other things for them, so I'm not sure if he has the time for it. But
maybe not. But I mean, if you're looking for a writer who I think actually can handle the supernatural part of it, or can handle the sciencey part of it, I think he's the best one. But he's also going to give you the best introspection of your character and going, okay, this is how he needs to be, and I think he'd be the most true on who Swamp Thing is.
So I'm going to bring up a comic that I think all of us loved, is that Superman annual that Swamp Thing was in. Did Tomasi write that?
I believe so.
Okay, that's why.
Jorge Jimenez of the art.
That's what I want to do next series. I want Tomasi.
I actually think it was Gleason and Tomasi they co-wrote.
Yes, it was.
So
there was an issue.
They're not on that book anymore, so they got something. They got to figure out something to do.
When they were doing the Batman and Robin series for the new 52, Swamp Thing was in that for a time. I don't remember. Was he?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think he showed up once.
Yeah.
He made an appearance.
In
And
what?
like in when Damien
Oh yeah,
dies,
he was in that.
he did show up in that, and I thought I was like, whoa, this guy's freaking awesome. That's the first intro to Swamp Thing I ever got. And then the annual was just a freaking amazing.
That was amazing.
Like I said, it's a very touchy subject, so I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some time in between. Obviously, you got to ramp up to, you got to write issues, stuff like that. But I think if you're going to bring him back and do something, it has to be something where you're like, okay, we're going to go back and do the story like Len wanted it to be done. And you go back, maybe, I'm not sure if he wrote any notes or did he kind of wrote down where he was going to go with the story. Maybe you take that and do something with it and kind of like, in a way, honor the way the character was rather than wanting to be like, I'm going to put my stamp on it.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, I have a hard time believing that Len Wein only wrote notes on one issue. Yeah, there's got to be like, especially with how many characters in there. There's no way you're just like, we start with Grundy and and Batman, like
because the series was going to be him and Kelly, right?
Yeah,
yeah. See, you would think as collaborators Kelly knows like where they're going to go with it.
Yeah,
he knows enough to be like, okay, let's just get somebody else to write script this story by Len still, script by somebody else. I'll do the art. Obviously, I know where this is going, and artists are a big part of that storytelling, anyways. And, get that thing out there. And then, because that's always the sad part for me, because if you see it, and it's happening with this metal thing right now, they're like, we got to bring back some characters people have been wanting to bring. Plastic Man, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, like all these people, they're like, we're going to bring them back. Since his rebirth happened, where's Swamp Thing's been this guy who like just shows up? Is he just this guest starring character that shows up every once in a while? Yeah. Like, obviously they were going to do something with it. Like, and maybe that's the reason why nothing really happened with it. But like, I feel like, especially if you've seen Shape of Water, The Shape of Water.
I fell asleep halfway through. It was really good. I started it way really too late. Does not reflect on what I thought of the movie.
Hey, I saw it at a 10:30 showing, and I kind of nodded off a couple times too.
Oh,
but
quit
it was really
bragging! Good. You stayed up. No.
It was actually a couple times nodded off, but it was pretty good. But like, people are saying it's one of the best movies of the year, best picture, and not to say that they're a 1-to-1 parallel, but the monster story, and especially with like that kind of stuff coming up again, they want to do that Universal monster thing. I think right now, like, people are more accepting to be like, let's bring this guy back. So I think 2018, where's Swamp Thing? Let's go. Especially like you said, we're into this new age of heroes. Where's my old age of heroes? Like,
yeah.
I think that's something you do. And a metal, bring back, if you're gonna bring back Plastic Man, all these people, where's Swamp Thing?
You said, has Sandman been in metal lately?
He was in
he was in two.
First two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Two of them, yeah.
No, he was in
Not the first two.
4 and whatever the last one was.
He was in 1.
Oh, was he in 1? He was
okay. Yeah, he was in 4.
I was just wondering because I thought I haven't seen him in a long time.
What do you give this book? I give it about a 8.
I give it an 8.
I'll say it an 8.
Yeah, I'm about at an 8 too.
Yeah, believe me, up until that point, would have been a 10 out of 10. But
I'll tell you what, when the bear dies, I was touched. I was sad.
But like I'm saying, if it pays off, it's more touching.
But then when he killed the cannibal guy, I was like, oh, okay, just kind of killing people willy nilly. I get you're protecting the kid, but you're just.
But I think that is supposed to be, once again, I don't want to rewrite the story for Tom King, but I think it's supposed to be like the bear attacks him because that's what he does. He's born that way. That's the way he thinks. The guy tries to kill him out of survival because he has to. So then when you get to the end, it's the monster and survival, the reason why he has to kill the kid. But it doesn't happen. Like, he has to kill the kid because he's the monster. Yep. So the whole time he's like, no, the kid's like, you're not a monster. Like, you're a hero to me. Like, he's like, he can't believe that he's not the monster. He's like, no, I am a monster. And then at the end, the kid's like, gotcha, I'm the monster. And it's like, okay. Surprise. It should have been like, no, I'm right. I am a monster. And the kid's like, no, you're good. And you'll find me one day. And then that's the end. So, but it doesn't happen. So,
so I don't mean to bring up the winter special again, but one little nugget that really confused me was when the Cannibal Hillbilly, it says he's going to eat the child, or he has to take the child to eat him. He says something about, I'm so sorry, but this winter, it makes me so hungry.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that relates to any of Swamp Thing's internal struggles in that story.
I think it's just that thing about survival. That's it.
Sure.
But there's no payoff.
But the hungry thing. I'm going to eat this child because the snow is making me so hungry. Like,
well, when I saw that, I was
on drugs or drunk or something.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I also was like, I'm pretty sure there's like all those dead bodies around you, like, and you didn't choose to eat them. They're obviously not bones.
But did he already eat them? Because that's what I'm assuming.
No, they're fully.
He says he's
full
so.
bodies.
He says he's so hungry.
And like he was chilling in that snow.
Yeah.
Like he didn't die either.
Right.
All things he's been chilling there.
Yeah, and then obviously he's fake. He's a manifestation, but his purpose, what he says, doesn't make sense. You think so if you were having this fever dream, it would. I feel like it would be less cryptic, and it would just be because these are your thoughts. It wouldn't be like I'm so hungry. I don't know.
But maybe by that point, Swamp Thing actually is hungry. He's a plant. He was supposed to be dormant and sleeping, and he keeps having to move and keep having to do stuff and keep having to fight fuckers for this kid who isn't real. And so now he is getting hungry. He is getting tired. He is getting dragged down. That maybe he really is hungry.
But he would never kill anything to eat.
No, yeah. He kills the bear. He wouldn't have. Yeah, you're right.
Poor bear.
He would never. Yeah.
I think part of it is
bear killer.
How dare you not hibernate?
He's a shirtless bear killer or bear fighter.
I think part of it is supposed to be, but you're right. The hunger part doesn't make sense. But it is supposed to be the Swamp Thing knows in the back of his head, like I have to kill this kid to survive. Like this is what I have to do. But he doesn't want really to realize it. But it's not for hunger; it's for survival.
Right.
But you can't make a hillbilly be like, I got to kill you to survive, because then you're like, for what?
Right.
Like, what are you? Like, it's no threat to you. Like, what do you mean survive? So he has to make it hunger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it was. It's like Tom King came up with the guy killing the kid, but couldn't figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, well, he's got to eat. And it's like, well, there's dead bodies all around there. You'd eat any of them.
Right.
Like, I don't know why you're killing a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was okay. Just a lot of the conceptually, I think it falls flat, or not even conceptually. Like, I think if the idea of the story was fully realized, I think it's better. But not bad though.
Mm-mm.
I didn't feel like I wasted $7.99.
No.
Good cover.
Cover's great.
The quality too. That's the thing I like about these DC one-shot specials. Is like, at least I know $7.99 is going to be a good cover. I've gotten things from, not to rag on Marvel, but I got things for $7.99 from Marvel that has those cheap covers. It's
covers.
like, where did my money go? Like,
Yeah.
hey, no ads either, right?
I don't think so.
No ads?
No, there's no ads.
I didn't realize it till right now.
I know the book, man, this sounds horrible, but it kind of was propelled by Len's passing, and obviously just paying homage to, or paying tribute to Len and Bernie. But I do find it absolutely amazing that Swamp Thing got his own prestige book. Like, he's not being used right now.
No.
You could say no one really cares about the character just in the grand scheme of the universe. So for him to get his own book is just so exciting. It's ridiculous.
It is. Do you think the Tom King story wasn't even a thought before Len died?
No, I think it was probably in the works.
It was in the works,
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like it is.
I feel like I saw stuff before Len had died.
Yeah.
That he was working on this.
And it was delayed too. So I think that it might have been delayed because to add the extra stuff in the back. I don't know.
Swamp Thing also, and this week was in that Monsters in Love special.
Which is an excellent story.
Is it okay?
It is fantastic. I think
get that.
nothing against Tom King again, but that Young Monsters in Love Swamp Thing story, I think it's called Heart Shaped Box, is better than
the whole thing.
It's a 5-page story, I believe, and it's better than the Winter Special. It is awesome.
Is it? You obviously don't have to tell spoilers because I actually would want to check it out. But is it because it's less about Swamp Thing, like showing off like how strong he is? Like that story feels like to me like the kind of Snyder thing we were talking about before. Like he kills that bear, he kills that guy. It tries to be introspective, but kind of fails on that. Is the Young Monsters thing more like kind of playing with the idea that he really is a monster? Can you really be in love and all this kind of stuff?
So with Tom King, it's very much like these physical trials defines you. In this Heart-Shaped Box story, it's the mental the mental capacity or of who he is also, but also battling as the monster.
Because it is him and Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. Right?
No, that's what's great.
The cover is fake.
The cover is completely fake. It's so great. So the story is actually Swamp Thing is this monster in Houma, Louisiana. He's been there for a very long time, which is super cool.
Yeah.
It starts out with he's talking to this local that he's friends with, and Swamp Thing has fallen in love with a woman in the town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that sounds way better than the cover.
And the artwork is just amazing. It's more stylized. It's like almost like a painting. It's gorgeous.
That sounds like a story I want to read because, like I said, it's like, can this monster really love a person? Like, And because is he really a person or not? Is he just a bunch of plants thinking that he actually is a person?
Right. There's a I'm not spoiling anything, but there's a beautiful line in that short in Young Monsters in Love where Swamp Thing says, like, I'm going to give her this Valentine. I haven't done this in a long time. I hope I do it right. That freaking melted my heart because it's like this monster is like worried about the emotions involved in this having a connection with the opposite sex rather than like, dude, you're made of plant material. Like it was like the sweetest moment in the story.
And say, no offense, I never think Swamp Thing is a man anymore. I just kind of think of him as a thing.
Yeah, right.
So it's
literally.
Yeah, Wednesday Comics 6 will end the show. I'm sorry. For some reason, actually, let me do it the other way. This is what I was originally going to do. That's why I messed up here. RootsOfTheSwampThing.com if you learn more about the Swamp Thing. Holland Files 1 and 2 have come out, sold out, right?
So yeah, it's sold out.
So if you haven't got it, like I said, we ramped up to this thing. If you didn't pre-order it, too bad for you.
Every episode you guys talked about it.
Yeah. So, and Twitter too, we're trying to get you on board, but obviously you weren't listening. But everybody that got it, great. Like thinking about what I said about this book, $7.89, good quality. Good quality in this book. I really like that.
I'm halfway through. It's so good, John.
Nice.
Really enjoyable. It really brought, and when I'm reading this story, it really brings a lot in of that character that, then that's what you guys are talking about. Like all this stuff that like what makes this character great, why people should be reading these books, why they should be making these books. And it's not about this guy, oh, dude, you can make anything out of his hand. Mm-hmm. No. That dude's not even a dude.
Yeah.
So like it's examining what it means to be a person.
Yeah.
What it means to be alive. So that's what it is. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. So if you didn't get those books, next time we talk about it, open up your ears and pre-order this thing. But rootsoftheswampthing.com, go there. Great material on there. I go there and once in a while you get the history of Swamp Thing. You get do you want me to talk about the podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swampcast Pod Thing.
Yeah.
Swampcast Pod Things, a new podcast about Swamp Thing. Obviously, I'm going to subscribe to learn about the Swamp Thing. Right now on Podbean only, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go to rootsofswampthing.com. I'm sure you have a link on the website.
Yep.
You can go to Podbean. Here's the thing. Because like you said, I saw some people, like, they weren't sure how to get it. Here's a little 411 from Marvin, a little technology. I'll be your tech support today. Go to the website, Podbean. If you go to the Podbean thing, it has an RSS feed on that page. All you do is copy that. Any podcast app has a way you can input the RSS feed. The Apple device does, the Android device does, anything. You just plop in that RSS feed. Guess what? It does the rest of the work for you, subscribes you. So do that. Listen to the new podcast and learn about Swamp Thing, the Avatar of the Green. I'm sure you guys, I'm excited to hear if you guys go over to that origin story because I didn't know where we're at. Maybe hopefully also you guys get some excitement and somebody at DC or hear that thing and decide to write this book.
Seriously.
I'm waiting for it. So rootsofswampthing.com, make sure to go there and learn about the Avatar of the Green. WednesdayComics605 at gmail.com. Email us. Let us know what you thought of the books this week. On Twitter at WednesdayComics, at Alex Pastrello, at Garot2188, at DC World Swampy, and at Marvin_Salguero. Also at Pastrami News. Is he still?
He's dead.
He's dead. Okay.
No, we're waiting for Swamp Thing to come collect it.
This pastrami got captured. Somebody got hungry. Probably that hillbilly.
Cannibal.
Yeah.
That hillbilly got
lunch
hungry.
meat.
Hey, you think Pastrami News walks by, he would have ate that guy not to kill a kid. So that's what happens. Facebook.com/Wednesday Comics Podcast. Also Facebook.com/Roots of Swamp Thing. Go there to like the page. Make sure you got to follow this DC World Swampy or on Facebook at Roots of the Swamp Things to make sure that next time something's coming out that you need to pre-order, you're on the ball and you get it right away. So go ahead and go there. YouTube, go there and search Wednesday Comics. You'll be subscribed to our YouTube. You can see these two do the gauntlet. I'll let you know what the gyms are that week. Also, Garrett doing his own little show, Catching Up with Garrett.
Yes.
You can also go there for any time you want to see any or listen to this show. If you can't understand that podcast, YouTube, you can get that there. So 605-215-1849. That's the voicemail line. If you don't leave us a voicemail, let us know what you think of the Avatar of the Green. You guys a fan of the Green? Let me know. Let me know who should write that book. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Call in. Let us know who you think should write that book. And we'll play on the show. We'll send it your way. We'll let you know. You send that to people you know. Let's get this book rolling.
Seriously.
I'm really, when I said, I read that last story and I kind of got sad because that book was going to come. Obviously, unfortunately, Glenn passed away. But now it's like, okay, somebody over there has to be like, now I'm going to take this over. Like, somebody has to be like, let's get this going.
Yeah.
Obviously, in memory of Len, let's this thing he wanted to do, let's pick it up.
I know my Swamp Thing like fandom's at like a 10 right now, so I need something.
I'm telling you guys.
I'm almost thinking I want to get that Young Monsters in Love now.
I'm gonna get
just for hearing you say even 5 pages.
Literally, the only reason I didn't get it is because I was like, I like the Swamp Thing, but I didn't like the Swamp Thing Frankenstein connection because I thought it was a little too on the nose. So I saw it on the cover and I was like, maybe it's going to be too much on the nose.
I think the cover's beautiful, but I don't think the cover serves the content.
No.
Because there's some amazing stories in that book.
Can you imagine you say
Dead Man, Demon.
Ooh.
Yeah. They're all like little 5-page love stories.
Is it Dead Man story?
So good.
Speaking of Dead Man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to get this thing. But speaking of which, you said like it's just a regular girl that he meets in town. If that cover is him and a girl on the cover and like he makes his hands into roses, I'm there. You know what I mean? But instead, it's a cover with him and Frankenstein, and I was like, a little on the nose. So that's why I didn't get it.
It's silly looking.
Yeah, it's silly. Rather than the other thing is more romantic. So that's why I didn't get it. Book club. We got a book club, right, Alex?
We do. We got
Wednesday Comics Leave Extraordinary Gentle People proudly presents
Day Shipper by Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba. I tell you what, if you're not reading this book, you're missing out. You got Tears Magoo over there, Marvin.
Probably going to cry.
Cry again for the third time. You got Garrett reading. You're reading it for the first time, right? Or you will be reading it for the first time.
I'm just waiting for a really good day.
Go into this book high on life and happy because when you're done, you may be Marvin crying up a storm.
You know, my son being born, anything with father and son choked me up, made me a little teary-eyed. Now anything post that cry my eyes out. So like, who knows? This thing used to be a 9, make me cry. It might be like a 10 now. So
I remember like a year ago, you could just say Tom King and see a tear just roll down his cheek.
That's the thing. Also, speaking of Tom King from the beginning of the show, part of Tom King, the reason why like I have this attached love to him because he wrote Vision, and that end of that story made me cry.
Yeah,
because it's a lot about family and stuff like that. So a lot of when I read something by him, I give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt because he wrote that story.
Yeah.
A lot of that's like, well, you did one thing good one time. So that's why in this story here, I'm like, well, you did most of it good. Thank you for Vision.
That's not a glare in his glasses.
Supercon 2018 returned the con September 28th, 29th, and 30th. 28th, Wednesday Comics will be there doing a live show. We'll be doing a show for you all, but there's a lot of things going on. You go to supercon.com, you can buy your tickets. Like I said, I recommended that weekend pass, $30. It's not bad.
Worth it.
It's more than the day is a little more. I think $15, right?
I believe so.
So you're getting your money's worth by just buying the weekend pass. Go there, you can see us. Everybody else will be there. We got some. We're bringing Phil Hester, Wednesday Comics sponsored. Shay Fontana's going to be there. There's a lot more guests. You heard the ad during the show. A lot of people
have a good relationship with Phil Hester, don't you?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to be down there soon.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's what I said.
Exciting.
We're bringing Phil to the show. We got John.
Phil's bringing John with us.
You know what? Maybe we get Phil Hester in this Swampy Talk. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. He's a huge fan.
We got to, like I said, I know he's got an in. He did Mother Panic for a little bit, and now he's doing this Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Get some. I'm sure Phil's like, hey, if they offered him a Swamp Thing, he'd be there in a minute. But SuperCon 2018, September 28th, 29th, and 30th. Tickets on sale right now at supercon.com. Make sure to go there and visit them and pick up some tickets. Anything else? It is something else, and I need to add it to that board because I forget every week. And when I edit the show, I was like, Marvy,
you need to find that
again.
marker then.
It's right there. Go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to the show. Tell your friends about the show. Oh, yeah, it's up here. Let them know.
Looking like an idiot looking for it.
Wednesday Comics Podcast. Like I said every week, go to your grandma's house, just go to her iTunes, subscribe her to Wednesday Comics. One day she's going to find this episode and thank you. She's going to write you thank you letters. Thank you, Johnny. I know that I was looking for Wednesday Comics and you finally brought it to me. If your grandma can subscribe, you can subscribe. So, I don't know. That made me laugh because I thought about that picture of a grandma on the computer being like, what's going on here?
What's this?
Hey, you'd be surprised. I've talked to some people on the phone that are really older. They know a lot about computers, so don't you?
Not this guy.
Not that guy. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not about age. Because
I was like, I'm all about the issues coming out because I can.
When I said RSS earlier in the show, Alex was like, what are you talking about?
I did. I thought, I don't know what the fuck that was, but okay.
Subscribe, and while you're there also, Swampcast Pod thing. Make sure to subscribe to that too. One episode out here. They're going to talk about this. They're going to clear up this origin. And then you know what DC's going to do? They're going to take this episode of this origin and they're going to put it out there so that way there's no more confusion. That's what's going to happen. Because you know I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it out there. I got some connections. You know Brock? Follow him on Twitter. He's going to put it out there for me. I haven't brought that up in a while. And that is 100% true. If you're a new listener, Barack Obama follows me on Twitter, and that's I'm using that connect. I only got one shot of sending him a DM before he unfollows me, so it has to be important. So I'm sending him the Swamp Thing podcast. So.
Wait, Marvin, I thought he already did DM you.
Oh yeah, he was on the show,
right?
50th episode.
It's hard to keep up with all your famous friends.
I know. Geez, sorry, Marvin, you're so popular.
Hey, Paramount Pictures also follows me. You want to get a Swamp Thing movie going? Oh, DC has their own thing.
Paramount, yeah. Pretty sure Warner Brothers did tackle.
You know that Cloverfield movie that came out? I told them, hey, sell it to Netflix. Guess what they did? Sold. You're welcome. For Wednesday Comics, I've been Marvin.
I've been Alex.
I've been Garrett.
We've got John.
I've been John.
Hey, everyone, keep turning those pages.